Hello and welcome to episode 218 of the FReality podcast. Shark-filled waters in these parts, and just three of us here today, your three VR musketeers, to keep this ship sailing through the choppy seas of Sony and Meta's start to the year so far. And let's not forget HTC 2. Throw them a lifesaver. They're going to be coming back to life soon. Here are today's FReality headlines. Steam Next Fest helps us hold the door, while us hungry White Walkers slump towards February 22nd. The jig is up, and sadly it's Bradley posts jobs for more meta leakers after a forced resignation. Martha Stewart's, now 81, is spending her post-jail years in Horizon Worlds. Where better? PSVR2's got a feeding frenzy as anticipation builds. Sony drum rolls ahead of its headset release later this month. And WTF, Meta? Are you trying to hurry-kari? You feeling all right there, bud? Last drink, eh? After that, well, finally, to clip this movie reel together, we've got Jose on releases to wind in the catches of the week. And I gotta say, I've had enough of you, chat. I have. Every week, same format, black and white text, no calligraphy. Some of you cheating with Chat GPT, I think, out there, maybe? Well, it's getting old. So unless you've really got something special to share, calligraphy, then just keep your message to yourself, yeah? All right. Let's move on to the roll call. You might be asking, where in the world is Adam San Diego? Well, she's deserted us to a desert island. Probably having dessert right now. Martinis, pool noodles, and long walks on the beach. I knew bringing a proper lady on the show was a mistake. They're all about those vacations and hugging sea turtles. Nah, just kidding. Adam, hope you're having a fun time, but no surfing those floods out there, okay? That's a little too dangerous for one of our members. On to the next lad. Ever seen The Fugitive? You know how that guy's always on the run? Well, so far this year, this guy's been about bolted down as Jodie Foster in Contact. Can't keep this lad down at all. And just like Jodie, he's got tech up the wazoo too. It's Jose, our VR tech. How you doing, Jose?
Yo, what's up, you guys? Not much. Stuck in California, but I'm very excited, very happy. Wish the internet was better though. I heard everybody in California had amazing internet and it was all great over here. It's trash. The internet here is trash. But I'm trying to make do, but playing a lot of video games, getting ready for PSVR2. So I'm kind of like clearing up my backlog. A lot of video games, man.
Before it becomes VR. Yeah, the thing that he flashed us just before the podcast started is a crazy looking device. I've seen a few kind of Alibaba type jobs out there where you can, put a, like Mike uses one where you've got a screen, PSVR is horizontal, or sorry, the PS5 is horizontal, and you got a little like a baby screen like you'd have if you had one of those old 1990s DVD in the
PS1.
car jobs. Those? Like, oh yeah, the PS1 re-released, didn't it? With like a tiny little pop-up.
That was my baby.
This thing seems really cool. Can you describe to the audience what is this thing that you bought? Because it looks pretty awesome.
So it's a mobile hard shell with a screen built in for the PS5 by Poga. There are lower end models of this. It's just I do travel with a team that really cares about fashion and they didn't want me carrying this giant Pelican case, so I got a little. It's sleeker. It comes with a 240 hertz screen designed for the PS5. It is
40 hertz screen.
Yeah,
Jesus.
It's absolute overkill. It's not worth the price by any means necessary, but it does look nice, right? Has a detachable like roller holder. I'll share some videos on Twitter. I don't know if Rowdy has a video that he can share on the the podcast vid. I posted I think on Discord. I think where we're playing Spider-Man. But yeah, man, it's a mobile carrying case, and it's so awesome that I'm able now to, no matter where I'm at, I'll be able to just pop open the PS5, put in the PSVR2, and just VR anywhere I'm at.
The thing is, Jose, this is the problem that Jose has introduced to the podcast is, until Jose came, I felt like a super nerd. I felt like a geeky guy, and then I realized, oh shit, I'm not doing it right. Jose does it right every time. It's crazy. Like the things you brought with you, you shipped headsets, you bring this kind of giant case, like the amount of tech you carry with you. It's like a trip to Mecca or something. I don't know. It's like honestly, you inspire me to be a better nerd. That's what I'll say. So
it's something that I've been kind of striving for lately. It's so weird, like leaving so many cool gadgets at home, especially with the launch of PSVR2 happening right now. Like the thought of that being at home when I'm traveling, just it's too much for me. I don't think that there's proper work-life balance if your hobbies are kind of being ripped away from you. So I that's kind of like how I focus so much on my work, right? A lot of people always ask me, like, why are you working all the time? It's like, because I have all my entertainment with me, right? I have all my tech. I have all, like, there's nothing at home anymore. Like, I miss nothing but my TV. That's about it.
work hard, play hard, right, man?
Work hard, play hard, bro.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Well, that's Jose. So next up, over to the Wiz. So our Wiz sits behind his curtain, pulling levers and gears, making sure this show doesn't just explode or implode. And inevitably when it does, he's got more tricks up his sleeve. It's our sci-fi science plant geek, Rowdy. Hey, Rowdy. How's it hanging? I should say, how's it growing?
How's it growing? I mean, it's all right. It's winter in Canada, so there isn't too much that can be growing right now. But I got my setup with plants like in the back a little bit. I'm trying to make do with some bulbs here and there. So we get where we're going. We get where we're going.
Oh, very good. And what's been your flavor of the last 2 weeks? What have you been up to?
I've been mostly working, but I've been, I was telling Jose before as well, I've been playing around with some of stable diffusion networks and generative adversarial models as well that are basically like things like, for example, DALL-E, where you have textual input and then that textual input gets basically translated into an image. So I've been working with some of these models myself just to play around a little bit, trying to learn a little bit more about how they work and how they get constructed. It's very interesting, it's a lot of interesting stuff, and a lot of crazy stuff gets done with this kind of stuff. I saw, for example, there was a person on Reddit who played or who remodeled Heavy Rain. Do you remember Heavy Rain?
Oh, I loved Heavy Rain.
Yeah, but they used something like DALL-E to make the characters there look ultra realistic. So the movies and the cutscenes, they looked like, there were still some problems with the animation because, of course, I think the way that they do is that they use each frame of the video. So each frame of the video then gets input in such a model, and then you get a realistic output, which is, of course, is a lot of work. But sometimes the animation can get a little bit choppy in between different frames. But it looks amazing, and I think there's a lot of stuff. We're on the brink of a lot of these things to be happening and to become. I think that the change here is the same with ChatGPT, is that it's become more commercially available, or that a regular consumer can do this now on his own workstation, and you have web UIs and APIs, and you have like ChatGPT itself. It's it's so available to everyone. It's just you log into a browser and you start playing around with it. You don't need to know any coding. You don't need to load up any models or do any pre-training, which I love, of course. That's the kind of stuff that I do. But it's kind of crazy to see that happening, that people who have no clue about how these things work can actually work with these kind of things.
Can you make it explode? Can you be give me a McDonald's cheeseburger in the style of Burger King?
Oh, yes. We need to have that kind of stuff for 3D printers, right?
Oh, I never even thought about AI and then 3D printing. God, wait until you can just have it construct you a 3D model to print. Oh my. Okay.
Actually, funny enough, funny that you're saying that. Palmer Luckey was just talking about that maybe a few days ago, about how his investments into AI are now proving how 3D printing plus AI is going to disrupt pretty much all commerce. And he was just raising alarms about that recently, a few days ago.
That's great. Well, yeah, it's funny because there's certain things that have to building blocks. Tech comes out, but even just the idea of the tech, right? I feel before the last 2 years, I didn't even think about this exchange point. And I know lots of people have seen it coming, but it wasn't very real to me yet. But now it's, as you say, Rowdy, it's right on the precipice of it. And I feel like it's an art, it's a skill that makes sense to learn right now, how to create your prompts, how to get what you want out of the system as it's evolving. You yourself can evolve with it, So,
but there's so much,
so exciting,
so much stuff. For example, like just in fashion and art and in like, you know, all these kind of things. Like for example, Rec Room, you know, creating these kind of like little things to sell on a platform.
Sure.
There are people who are going to figure out how to do this kind of stuff, you know, automatically, you know, like they're going to create 1 billion of these kind of items and 1 trillion variations, you know, like there's going to be insane kind of changes, I think. And I don't know how we're going to manage all of that, but it's very cool to see it happening for sure.
Oh, that's so
I just
great.
found your video as well, so I'll play it as well real quick.
All right, Jose can do that while we maybe ask and dive into chat in parallel, see if anyone's got some secret sauce in there that we need to see. But if you take a look at what Jose's purchased, man, that screen looks nice. It really looks nice. That's mad. And the fact, like the fact that you can seat the PS5 in there, it's protected. It's got mount spaces for the controllers. That is some luxury, man. That's like
it has little exhaust fans. Oh, dude, it's so nice, and it's a head turner, right? Because it's like sleek white. It does almost look like the same finish as the PS5. So when you're like rolling it around, people like ask like, you know, what brand bag is that? And I was like, oh, it's actually a monitor, and they're like, wait, what? So it just starts the conversation. It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
I can just
It's a shame it only costs like $150,000, right?
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. It's absolutely don't buy this. Please do not buy this. You know, actually, you know what? I'll tell you this: the case comes with a little like lanyard bag that says "baller by day, gamer by night."
Man, like 20 years ago, that tagline would not have flown, you know?
Exactly.
Gaming didn't used to be a thing for, you know, normal people. Normies didn't do it.
Oh, dude. And it's like the gamer is like bedazzled. And the baller's actually bedazzled. And then the gamer's like, I'll take a picture of it.
I feel like, I mean, I'm not huge into the rap scene so much, but I feel like these days, like, you can't be a headline rapper without backing one of the consoles, you know what I mean? Like you gotta be a gamer as well, otherwise you're not cool with the kids. So it's
insane. Actually, they were using the actual branding was like endorsed by Little Yachty, and all like it had a bunch of like trending rappers. It was awesome. I was I like Lil Yachty.
I love that. I love that. That's like, it's so good that's all mainstream, you know? I mean, that's a far future now for VR, I feel like, but maybe it'll come quicker. Who knows? So that's these guys. All right, let's look at chat. Chat says, PD was reminding of his album. He had created an album. I forget the name of it. I think it was called AI or something like that, which he had generated, which was really good. It was really good, but it was a generated audio album. And then what else? I saw something in there about, let's see. Mike Kelly said, aside from Hogwarts Legacy, which you guys are going to have to teach me a little bit about Harry Potter, because I know nothing. I know I spent all that time in the UK. I know almost zero. But I know something big just came out, so you're going to have to tell me in a second. But he said, aside from that, I've been making custom races, grids of certain cars or eras to prepare for GT7 for PSVR2. Oh, Lord, that's something. And then someone else has said, Secret Soft said, loving Midjourney. It's giving me great ideas to sculpt into mechanical masks. Mechanical masks sounds awesome to me. Really good. See if there's anything else in here. Playing Echo Arena before Meta kills it in August. Right. Yep, we'll get to that, Goofy. If you're a rapper and not in Fortnite, you haven't made it. Yep, that sounds about right, Mad Hatter. Yeah, those big like world-changing events that they do is kind of nuts. And then Metal Singer with the VR mod. I didn't know there was a VR mod for that yet. That sounds like a great combination. So we'll have to get into some of that stuff. Well, thank you, chat, for tuning in today. Very good. You guys got to see Jose's new gadget. So let's go ahead and move to my highlight. I'm going to have to call someone out. I don't know who is to blame. I haven't dove into last podcast chat. This isn't my highlight, but I need to like put a target on someone's back because someone said that they were enjoying Hyperbolica last time. Someone in chat said that. I went to try Hyperbolica. I don't think I've ever, pardon my French here, parents cover your children's ears. I don't think I've ever gotten as fucked up in VR as I did with Hyperbolica. I'm not joking. Like I've felt sim sickness, VR sickness, whatever you want to call it, for the last like 9 years. I've been in Minecraft at 14 FPS for an hour. I know what that feels like. This messed with my DNA. Okay? This game does, like, if you can imagine an exponential curve, it does that to your 3D geometry as you're walking around a world. So you're like, oh, look, there's a beach on the horizon. And in 5 steps, you're there on the beach, surrounded by the beach. Like, hang on a second, I was just in a forest. Everything bends. And I don't know what it did, but it fecked me up for like, I don't know, 16 hours or something. Like, it screwed me up properly. I lasted about 5-6 minutes in the game. We did this live on stream. I did it last because I thought maybe it would turn my tummy, but it didn't do that. It changed my DNA. Something broke with me. Something feckin' messed me up. And you can play this on Quest if someone really wants to. But I will give huge warning signs to Hyperbolica, even on a flat screen. Watching videos of this now, my body is like, that's venom. You do not want that anymore.
But did you like it? This 5 minutes.
Yes and no. It's like, it's a really interesting concept. You traverse about a world almost like if you were on acid in Animal Crossing. That's what it's like.
You're endorsing this game,
really
well. I'm trying to contain my smile.
I'm kind of like wondering now, and I see people in the chat as well, they're very interested now.
Acid Animal Crossing sounds like the most amazing situation ever.
But no, it screwed me up. Like, my body didn't feel right for hours after playing that game. So Hyperbolica and whoever recommended to me that from last time, screw you, because it screwed with me. And I'm done. I'm done. Hyperbolica is I don't know. It was messed up. I had to give a warning to it. It's a screwball game. But now I can actually give you my highlight. So my highlight, and I've got a video of this, Rowdy, so that people can envision this. But if you ever wanted to play Worms in VR, or are a big Worms fan from back in the day, there's a guy who I've talked about before called Xerix, who's made this in VR chat. He's made a game that is like a Worms clone, all his original stuff in there, and I'll explain that in a minute. It's called Avi Wars. The Avi, I believe, stands for avatar. So you will get to pick like a different avatar. You get to join on teams. It can have up to 25 players in there, so 5 teams of 5 if you want, or any other configuration. But it truly is and you might be saying, hang on, Worms is a flat game. How's that going to work? So the way it works is you all see, like the players stand in an environment looking at a giant monitor, giant flat screen. And when it's your turn, you, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, get shrunken and you go into that world. And then you look around yourself and you're in this procedurally generated environment. You pick from your array of colorful weapons, including things, fan favorites like the ninja rope and dynamite and stuff like that.
The holy grenades.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff's in there. He made his own weapons, so it's not like named the same, and they're not the exact same weapon, but he's got very similar, like, homing cluster grenades and all that kind of stuff. It's immaculate. I was so surprised. In 10 months, what this guy has made, it absolutely floored me. It's at the top now of my VR worlds in VR chat straight away because it's just such an accomplished experience. You can have 5 different rooms around the main environment, kind of like a virtual cinema if you've ever been to one. And you walk down this hallway, and then you're in a place with its own screen and its own encapsulated audio with your team. And you can even like push emojis and stuff there through a dashboard on the wall that then appear in-game to the players to kind of taunt them. But you're in your own bubble. And then there's a production desk as well that loops all the audio and has smooth camera feeds. Like if Onward or something had this at the start, it would have killed on the esports scene. So like this game needs to become like an esports thing. It's just, I don't know if I'm doing a good job of explaining it, but it's all of the hype from Worms. Playing in a team way is really easy. And if you had like snacks or drinks, and some people do drinking games with this, within Avi Wars, I feel like that combination would work really well as like a friend get together type of thing and hang out, So that's Avi Wars, as I said, up to... You could play it with just 2 people if you want to check that out, right? And do a private instance. But there are public instances of the game, and I think it would be fun to just hop in with other people, play away. It's really easy to kind of have a drink by your side. It's turn-based, so a 25-person team would be crazy to get 25 people in there. You'd be waiting, 24 turns to go by before it's your turn. But it's classic Worms gameplay, and it was very fun. And I just couldn't believe... The only thing that was a kind of a negative was... in the first-person view, once you're the worm and you're moving around, there was a little bit of jitter in the camera feed, like when you were moving or aiming your weapon, but it still worked really well. So, yeah, very, very out there project, has come completely out of the blue, and I think it was executed like in a way that now I would say, if you're a VR chat person, if you like that stuff, you have to check this out. It's definitely a must do. So that's Avi Wars. The fact that it's all procedurally generated, shown to you on the screen, live while it's generating, like all of this stuff works. And he only did it in 10 months. And he made all the music as well. He composed all of the music in the game, which is great. Is like, you go in, you're like, clearly he just ripped this off from something. No, he's one of these old guys who's got, a bunch of different electronic desks and pipes it all together. So I was just smitten with that. Played that a couple of days after the last podcast, and had to give it a shout out here.
Nice.
So that was my highlight. Here you go.
Very cool.
Let's move into the news then. So I've kept the quick news, you want to call it, short, and we've got two big topics after that. So first up, Steam Next Fest. This is a week-long celebration. We've had several of these runs before. Not just flat games. There's kind of a VR segment. You do, when you get to the page on Steam, have to kind of scroll all the way right and look for the two tiny characters that say VR, like a little mouse. And you click on that, and that brings you to the kingdom of virtual reality. So there's a whole bunch of games there. I think there's about 10, 12 or so things that you can play. I played a bunch of them, and I just wanted to come in and recommend a few that I think will be worth checking out. And if you guys think any of these sound good, then great. Let's go for that. So the first one up is Gazlers. Now, if you like Dick Wild or Shooty Fruity games which are colorful, high action, even Pistol Whip, I'd say some of its DNA is taken in Gazlers, and you've got these, like, I don't know what they are, orcs, elves, I don't know, little creatures that are coming at you trying to pest you. You're on the back of a moving train, and you have guns, and you're trying to shoot those things. Well, in a Yuki style, the bullet beads are coming at you, and so you have to move around. It's like, I won't call it proper room scale. You're not walking around, but like in Pistol Whip, you got to move your body. Otherwise, you're dead in a few minutes.
The environment feels a bit like Borderlands, right?
Very Borderlands look. Yeah, very Borderlands look. Quite cartoony. But the way that the weapons all work, the fact that it's kind of roguelike in that when you die, you unlock weapons. It's a bit like some other games that we've seen, but really well done. Everything from the sound design, the way the weapons work, it makes for a really great demo. I don't know when it's launching, but that's Gazlers. And I recommend for anybody who's into shooting games, check it out. It's a really easy one for me to recommend. Now, on to the next one. Do you guys ever get caught in the trap of cookie clickers or games like that? Venture capitalists, any of those?
What is that?
So they're games that are, I'll call them low effort automation games. This might actually be, if I've ruined your life with this, Rowdy, I'm sorry, okay? Cookie clickers is, you like click on a cookie with your mouse, and then you click on it a few more times, and you've got a little incremental counter that says you've clicked 700 times, 701, 702. And as you do that, you unlock automation. And so so you might buy something that says this will click the cookie for you every second, once a second. And then you end up with like mechanizing an army of little engines that help you click and just gain growth. Kind of like your game of the year last year. Very, very kind of similar to that. So, but in flat, right? And so now someone has taken that style of gameplay, brought it into VR. So you pull a lever, you pull down like almost like a trucker, like a horn. You tap a button, all these kinds of motions. You crank a handle, all this stuff in VR around you. And as you're doing that, you then get these little, I'll call them furnaces or butterfly traps, where you can get things that, again, increment your feature on your behalf for you. It does it for you, right? And it's just addictive. The sounds are amazing. It really sounds great. Everything, when you click or you pull something and you're like, just pull it one more time. Oh, there's a punching bag as well. And you're doing all this stuff. So it's called Increment. I think it's releasing very soon. All I can say is it's so weird. Kind of like when Gorilla Tag was a workout. You had a lot of fun. It's like that. Like you actually are moving your body quite a bit, and you'd break a sweat, I'd say, after 15 minutes of playing this game. And it's fun. So
right. This is what I imagine mining Bitcoin would look like. There was some guy
podcast right there
pulling
levers, digital coins. Oh, that sounds awesome.
Man.
I actually not realized that there hasn't been anyone who has actually like the that feeling sensation of building like a Pythagoras switch, like those like the lever hits the ball and then the dominoes roll. Like nobody has made like a sandbox VR game where that's the purpose of it, like knocking a ball over as quick as possible.
They have. They have. It's called
like
Gadgeteer.
Factorium. No, there you go, right?
And then there's Gravity Lab. Those are the two.
Gravity Lab is
great.
Yes, Gravity Lab is very close to what I'm looking for.
Check Gadgeteer. We'll see you in a week, okay?
No, I'm good. I no, I got.
You're like, I got work to do.
Have you guys ever played Factorium?
Little bit.
I've never gotten into it.
It's.
I probably will at a certain point once I have more.
Yeah, I feel like you would love Factorium. Yeah. I feel like you would definitely sink time into that. Yeah, that stole my soul for a little bit.
There is something nice about creating. It's kind of capitalism, I think, but it's like creating little engines that then pay off right over time. Like I remember it in early VR days because I was playing Euro Truck Simulator, and in that, I think it was Euro Truck Simulator 2. You could create a company, hire other drivers, and they would drive and make money for you. And then it just starts to build, and you build your little empire. So yeah,
you're giving me an existential crisis. I'm like now realizing why I love capitalism so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you, video games. Oh my god,
it's a game. It's
Euro Truck Simulator.
Like American love is the game of capitalism. Is like I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna make this create more things, and it's a very Western world we live in. But yeah,
I like money because of video games. That's my excuse from here on out.
Exactly.
So I guess that's for people who like to do things alone. What about for people who like to do things together, like in a band? There's another game that I wanted to highlight here. So it's got a demo at the moment, multiplayer demo called BandSpace. So like Rock Band, where you bring your friends over and you got your plastic guitar and various other little gadgets, drum kit, that type of thing. Well, someone obviously thought that would be a good idea to bring that to VR. And I got to tell you, standing on stage with a couple strangers, someone's on bass, someone's on guitar, I'm here on piano, felt really good. I was like, oh man, I'm in the Beatles. Like we're making music together. Yeah. It was like, it's just so weird. And they're each individually gamified. So for example, the bass guitar, you're just like strumming and moving your hand, and it's doing a little bit like Guitar Hero style type thing. The standard guitar has like double fretting, so it takes a little bit of skill, but again, it's a skill and a slide. The keyboard is, again, similar to that, but on keyboard and moving. And then the drums are kind of like the drumming games that we've seen. So you kind of pick the one you want to do, and you just play it away.
Like, if I see you playing this, you do not look like a keyboard player. You look like you're playing the tam-tam or something.
Like it's so fun,
sorry, Zim, but the tam-tam players don't get any of the groupies.
Darn. But that's okay. I think my wife will be good with that. But BandSpace, yeah. So like for somebody who likes a lot of like music rhythm games and stuff like that, sure, we got Thumper coming at us on PSVR2 soon. Dance Central was really good on Quest. If anyone ever missed it, go back and revisit that. That was really fun. The multiplayer element was really, really cool. The only thing I didn't like is there wasn't open VoIP. I couldn't talk to them. And I think that's a big mistake. I think that they should definitely allow you to talk and laugh. And, some of the people I was playing with were like aces at the game, and I was obviously rubbish, but it would just be fun to kind of make friends and have a bit of banter, with some
bringing in
strangers.
some eye tracking at least. Like, it would be cool if you can like gazing at somebody who's messing up and that they're just staring at you.
You need to be able to shout at the drummer for sure.
Yeah.
No, there's worse than that. When you're playing, you're given a letter rating, A, B, C, D, E, F, while you're playing. So I was like a D, and like the pressure to do better, and like because they're looking at you and they're like, oh shit, you're doing poorly, man. You feel like you're in a real band.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You're the reason why we haven't made it yet, right?
Yeah.
That would be the perfect. Somebody actually sent me this game on a DM because it's something that I've been looking for, because I feel that that's like the perfect. There's so many games that a lot of like VR developers try to make for arcades, and this is the perfect VR arcade game, and it's not available for arcades yet. I've been telling you. I actually sent them an email actually to the publisher. I was like, yo, you probably should consider this for arcades. This is the perfect. 100%. Let's go out. You can put stage lights, and I'm giving free game here, but yeah.
Yeah, dude. I'm actually surprised. Like, you'd almost think that them launching into arcades first is what you would have
Mm-hmm.
expected with this, because you're right. I mean, it'd be. I'd say VR arcade owners would be begging for this title, and it would work amazingly there, because you're going to drag your family and friends and people who don't normally VR, and also there's no fucking Rowdy. Stop putting me big on screen for me. Oh God!
It gets worse.
He said it gets worse. He said it gets worse with the happiest grin on his face.
He loves it gets worse. Oh God! This is Rowdy punishing me. He's like keep it under 2 hours, dude. So that was BandSpace, and I've totally lost my train of thought. Oh, I was gonna say there's no plastic doohickeys, right? So you're not like having to buy an accessory for every individual game. It's all virtual. I love that fact, because we've all been there with too many Wiimotes and stuff. All right, next game on Steam Next Fest, which is worth checking out. If you are a fan of Gorilla Tag's motion, but I don't know, maybe not a fan of kids or what Gorilla Tag is right now, if you were to jump into it, then quick, go jump on No More Rainbows, which is I love the premise of this game. You are this like demon creature, this furry, like big gorilla almost of a demon. And your job is to go destroy all the happiness in the world. And so that these happy little bubble boys, and you go and you literally rip them apart or squash them. You have, like Wolverine, extensible claws that come out in like a shink motion, and you can jam these like claws into walls to like climb them, all with like Gorilla Tag locomotion. It honestly feels like it was just ported from Gorilla Tag. I don't know how they copied it so well. It's colorful. The title of the game is excellent. It's No More Rainbows. And you're just busting up little rainbow dudes. So I have to say, for somebody who like really enjoyed Gorilla Tag at the start, saw it disintegrate into what it currently is. I mean, they're doing very well. Don't get me wrong. But you probably wouldn't catch Zim in there on a random Sunday. And you maybe want a bit of exercise at the same time while you're playing games. Check out No More Rainbows. It's raining on a happy parade. It reminds me very much of like Happy Tree Friends and stuff like that. So
Exactly.
I do like destroying other things' happiness every once in a while. It's good fun.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. There's that, and then the final one I'll mention from Next Fest is VR Noid. VR Noid. I remember the Noid, as something that Domino's had back in the 90s. That's what I remember, the Noid. I don't know, he would steal your pizza like the Hamburglar for pizza, I think.
Yeah.
But VR Noid is basically like a game of Breakout or air hockey that you can play asynchronously, if that's the right term, VR and PC. So a PC player can sit down and have an interface, and the VR player gets to have a puck floating in their hands. It does feel a little weird that you're not sliding it on a fixed surface. So again, I'm probably like in the band game, just flinging my puck around. But it's got some funny little like obstacles, and it made for a really successful kind of couples game. So anyone who's like VRing out there, has one headset, is like, hey, with my significant other, I want to do something for just fun for over Valentine's Day. This is running, as I said earlier, from February 6th through February 13th. So if you want to jump on that on February 13th, be like, I know tomorrow's Valentine's Day, honey, but let's sit down and play some games together. This makes for a really fun experience, either on PC or in the headset. It's quite competitive as well. So I had a good laugh with that with my wife, Karen, and just wanted to recommend that as some other people had pushed me. They're like, go on, go play VR Noid. And I did, and I enjoyed myself. So if you're like into old school arcade kind of cabinet games, there's one in VR. There you go.
Cool.
Yep.
This one looks fun, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a few other things on Next Fest that I didn't get a chance to try. I will steer you clear of things like, I'm still waiting for a pet game to come. There's like a VR vet one where you go check on Fido's heartbeat and stuff. And yes, you can pet the dog in VR, but other games aren't as well polished, I'd say, from the things that I had played. But go check it out. Support the devs. Get hyped. Wishlist their games and stuff because it brings us more VR stuff. Let's not forget about Steam VR because it's still there. It's still a pretty healthy ecosystem over on Steam VR. So happy to give a little bit of hot air to their hot air balloon. All right. So with that, let's move on to the leaker. All right. Well, the jig is up, Batman. So from what we know, after a month-long witch hunt, the leaker was found. A third-party contractor was located. The person who apparently leaked the Quest 3 shots to Sadly It's Bradley, which we saw a couple of months ago, and ties have permanently been cut. Now, I don't know if said leaker is currently swimming with the fishes. All I can say is I have seen corporations doing some pretty dramatic things when it comes to, you know, corporate espionage and secrecy and stuff. So if all they did was lose their job, that's pretty good going, you know. Go hide in a tiki hut somewhere in Malaysia or something, you know. But anyway, obviously this person has been tracked down. Our poor, Sadly It's Bradley, is now in the news spotlight yet again. And clearly, if you're on the fringe of saying, oh man, I'm working for Meta and maybe I feel like leaking, well, now's your moment. Now, saying that, you guys know I hate leaks. I personally am not a fan of leaks, leak culture, and that type of thing. I know stuff gets out, but like, it goes back to like Apple products and stuff like that. I love when, you know, you get the product announcement, and it really floors you, and you're like, oh my God, jaw dropper, right? And that stuff takes years to get to from an engineering perspective. So everyone has to be super hush hush, and all it takes is one person to break that. So again, I'm not recommending or not recommending, but it's a, you know, there's an opportunity there for someone who maybe wants to leak. The future Edward Snowden at Meta, maybe. But aside from that, I have a feeling Bradley will continue to be fed by the community, and we will be, you know, feeding on that funnel for some time yet. So it's interesting to see that evolve, though, right? Where you get the leak, people are like, oh, he's done other things pretty well, and then you get this official, like, we found him, guys, right? Now, this wasn't officially posted, by the way. This is somebody who, again, is
they should have released a video. Returnal. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
We got him. I hope. Can somebody make that, please, with like video with like a little tin picture of Bradley?
And it's like a picture of Brad in the back, yeah. Like
yes.
Big, like...
It would go well on YouTube overnight. Promise.
It's the picture of him wearing the maid outfit. That's the picture they're gonna have on the corner.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
We got him. Oh, it's. I'll say this. For anybody who's trying to think about leaking, like, definitely change the way you send emails and communicate. These companies know very well how a pattern behavior. That's how they get found. I'm pretty sure that's how they found this leaker. It's exactly. Pattern behavior, how they send emails, how they communicate. So if you're gonna leak something, I'm just gonna theoretically tell you, like, pretend you're somebody else all the way through. You know,
so what Jose is saying. If you're leaking something, contact Jose from FReality.
There you go.
Through our channel.
Yes.
Like,
just make sure
exactly.
Listen, change your persona completely, and that way there's plausible deniability, and you're good to go.
I like this. You know, for a while, I was like, oh man, I'm doing these like criminal-centric intros for Jose. I feel bad. I got to change this up now. But no, you know what? I might be able to go back to that now.
Hey, listen, I'm all about knowing that what's coming out, so that's how we stay ahead.
It's the reality of our new digital life and the speed at which information changes hands as well. So, speaking with that, on the little hype train for Choo Choo from Reddit, I know some of you have seen enough of me about Reddit for the last week or so that's fine. This is something new, though, very similar to a train ride we saw in AR. This is CoasterMania VR. So CoasterMania VR allows you to, in your space, create your own roller coaster, decorate it to your liking, and then share that with other creators and download their tracks. And you can play this either in a VR space or an AR environment with pass-through. And in the video, you are able to see the person is using Oculus Pro controllers to draft a track with a little cart on that track, and it has a fun little jump into a kitty cat and explodes. So yeah, be careful with your pets. But drawing in an environment, creating your own tracks, like, I don't know, it's like Roller Coaster Tycoon, right? So if you're into that kind of game, you're into those kind of management sims, this brings that kind of vibe, right? No word yet as whether or not you can ride the coasters. And I feel like we've been in, I a little bit of like dehydration when it comes to coaster games lately. I think I said this maybe before Christmas, but whatever happened to like No Limits 2 and games like that were like really great coaster games where you could ride first person? We've yet to see a native coaster game where you can like edit the theme park or the ride and then ride it, or Jose can share his ride with me. So I don't know. Devs, get busy. Make us a coaster game. I hope. Things are comfortable now. We're all good. Just don't put that coaster in Hyperbolica, please. Okay.
Don't.
That would be awesome, actually.
That would reset all of the 9 years of VRing that I've been doing. So.
Oh man.
That's all the small news. That's all the small news done.
Nice.
Before we get into PSVR2, any other small tidbits that you guys have seen before we move on? Anything else? You guys are good. Okay. So the pot is definitely boiling at this point for PSVR2. I mean, it's really like, I feel like the hype has been building and building and building, like an orchestra as they're building. But hey, they say a picture is worth 10,000 words. So let's show you the difference between the PSVR 1 setup and the PSVR 2 setup, just in terms of, cables and construct and all of that. Because for those who have like a foggy memory, PSVR 1 wasn't the easiest thing to set up. And so I like this because it shows you the pace of progress and where we've gotten to. It is a stark reminder, in particular for me, of that bloody camera, which didn't like hugs and wanted to be high up or very far away at a particular angle. It was a very ugh moment for me. I can remember. We fought it on several occasions, and let's not even talk about certain games like Hitman, which were a nightmare with that camera. And then, of course, you had the breakout box. Do you guys remember the slidey breakout box of PSVR 1? It's kind of like a modern rehash of the French guillotine, and with just a few more cables. Like, I don't know, they included a feck ton of cables, and I think it's just because, someone had watched Casino Royale or something, and they're like, oh, in case you need to tie up a bad guy, then you have one for each leg of the chair. You can just wait until the authorities show up. And meanwhile, on the PSVR 2 side, we see a tidy USB-C cable, just waiting patiently to be plugged in and played with. I can't wait. Like, that's the thing that about PS5 I personally love the most. Is so easy. It's like when you go from any kind of tech setup with a PC gaming and all that debugging to console, and you plug in the power, you plug in the HDMI, and you press on the controller, and the thing just boots up. It's like, what's wrong? Something's wrong here. Something's not adding up. Like, why is it so easy? And I hope that PSVR 2 is going to give us that for VR. Because
and at the next step, they'll get rid of that cable as well, right? It's a logical progression, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they haven't solved it yet. I am not yet. I mean, I know Virtual Desktop does a fantastic job. Even AirLink does a pretty good job if you're like close to your router and stuff. I look forward to cableless VR, but I'm not hung up on that. I'm really not yet, because the thing I want is quality. I want quality coming to my eyeballs. The only thing that really bugs me sometimes, and I think the problem that we're going to see, I can't wait to see Reddit flooded with broken pictures, because someone's going to yank their PS5 off of its mount with that cable and do one of two things. They're going to bend or break the USB-C cable and have to buy a new PSVR, because I don't believe the cable comes off from the headset. You can't just unplug it and plug another one in. I believe it's fixed. And then on the PS5 side, that thing, if it's vertical, that thing can come down, crashing down. We've seen some people already do that to their consoles. So one thing I will say, just a small, I don't know if this is a tip. It's more like an option for you. I've had some dev friends say that the MagSafe type connector works. It actually functions. So you can get one of those that's used for like, if you have an Apple Mac and you pick up your laptop to walk away with it, but the cable's still in, that it doesn't yank the laptop out of your hand and it drops to the floor. Same thing with the cable, right? We've all been there before where the cable's gotten tied around your legs and you gave it a bit of a pull and, you can damage your equipment. And I really, really fret the person who breaks their PS5 as a result of that.
Do you think that the magnet can actually, do you trust a magnet holding a connection to your headset on the PSVR 2?
I don't know yet. There's a few things that make me nervous, right? I've seen burned out ports with cheap ones. I have one that I
Same.
used with Quest for quite a long time, standing with the cable routed through the back around the side of the head, and it would stay in place. Like a lot of them are weak enough that it just kind of like, not that it would fall out, but a gentle tug will take it. And so you need something that's got enough staying power, enough magnetism that it doesn't present a problem of, oh, you've disconnected me in the middle of my game, right? So I have one. I am going to test it myself, but because I trust that particular model. Yeah, I think that's it. But I wouldn't go cheap. I think I remember spending, it would probably be the equivalent of like $25 on this like tiny little like 2-part magnetic connector. One that's designed for the right amount of power throughput is what you want. You don't want to go cheap because you can get them for like 5 or 10 or something. I wouldn't hazard that, but just an idea for people.
Yeah, magnets scare me. I don't know why. It's just
The other option,
you mean around electronics or like?
Not like just as a cable connector. It's just I feel that you don't get the optimal throughput, but they are rated for it, so they are. I'm assuming they are getting rated for them, but I just never felt that. And I mean, I visually have tried charging devices and noticed the discrepancy. That I feel that data pushing through might be hindered. That it could cause some kind of data loss, at least for VR, in my opinion. But I'm not sure.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know how I get on with it, you know? But yeah, I'm not going to try the cheapy ones. No way. Because I'm just worried I'm going to get one of those things where you get like a burnt out port and you're like, oh, shit. You know, you can run two devices at once doing that. So it's a gamble, but one I'm willing to take carefully. So that's PSVR 2. So that's just to kind of remind people, okay, why is it kind of exciting just on the basic like hardware level? But, you know, shortly after the last podcast, there was a bit of a fluff up with Bloomberg. And I would say this is kind of an interesting thing because they said Sony were cutting their estimates. And so they've got this lovely like tagline, Sony slashes PlayStation VR 2 headset output after pre-orders disappoint. And I remember seeing that and I was like laughing at it. Like, what, you just want my click? Is that it? You just want me to click on it? And then, I don't know, a day or two later, Sony rebutted and we're like, no way, we didn't cut it. And when you look at the numbers and you're like, okay, it's 2 million units, 1.5 million units. Like, we're talking millions of headsets here. Who cares? Like, I just don't care at all what Bloomberg's fine. They've been around years, right? But any news team, even if they said they're Sony's revising their orders from 2 million down to 1 million, it wouldn't make me nervous. It's an expensive headset, you know, and you've got to get your financials right. Otherwise, your shareholders beat you up. So even if they did revise, I really don't care. I just am acknowledging the fact that happened since the last podcast. So there's been this like push-pull out there in terms of Sony from a PR perspective, I feel like. And that's like just setting the scene for then what comes as, I'll call it, the staged releases that Sony has been planning. First up, what do we have? So from outside of the sphere of directly Sony, Perp Games had a games showcase. So very much like the Upload VR showcase that we had before. And it was nice. It was a sizzle reel of games coming to PSVR 2. Brought us stuff, news about games, more games. I mean, we've already got 30 plus, and it's like it's bringing even more, and we keep hearing more by the day, which is crazy in the run up. I'm glad we're getting more. And I know some people, particularly PlayStation fans, are like, "Hey, Sony, make a bigger splash. Like, why aren't we hearing about this? Why isn't this on the sides of buses? Like, this is a big deal. You're putting a lot of money into it. There's some big IP in here. Like, come on." So a lot of people, particularly on Reddit, are like, we think something's coming. But let's talk about the PSVR2 games that were announced at Perp Games first, before we get into that side of the internet. So first one's Madison, I wanted to mention, from Bluedius Games, where you play as Luca. Is a horror game. Play as Luca and endure Madison, a demon that has forced him to continue a gory ritual started decades ago, making him commit terrible acts. This came out in Flatland about a year ago. And in Madison, you need to take pictures and develop them yourself. So you're taking pictures with what looks like kind of an instant camera, but you actually do the developing. And dark rooms were always a scary place. You get to solve some puzzles, explore your surroundings, and survive. Looks quite demonic. Reminds me a little bit of PT, if that makes sense. So PT was this like demo, and it has been in VR before. There was Desperate Vladivostok, Afterlife VR. Another highlight for me was Ghosts of Tabor, which kind of takes from a number of different FPS games as a realistic military shooter. And that's coming. So that combines multiplayer features into its foundation. And that's from Combat Waffle Studios. Love that game name. So that's being developed out of Florida. Not too far, I'm sure, from where Jose calls home. A couple other games that we've got as well that were announced. Dyschronia, Chronos Alternate, that seem to be on all the different platforms. I think that game is a complete yawn, but hey, that's just me. Synth Riders Remastered, great rhythm game, previous sponsor of the podcast too. Song in the Smoke Rekindled, love to show you that. That's looking particularly nice. That's from 17-bit. And this one, with I think Rowdy and I are big fans of. You survive directly because of your own hands. You're crafting weapons, you're making clothes, building fires, brewing healing elixirs, and fighting up against vicious predators. You know, you've got raptors and stuff in the game, so it's not a friendly world, and you've got to survive it. But on PSVR2, God, it's looking the part now. You know, where if on Quest it was a bit like, a little bit cut back, it's looking the part now.
Yeah, this looks great, for sure.
Yeah. I thought out of everything on PSVR2, Rowdy, is this the one that you'd be most excited for in terms of the lineup?
I think so. I mean, like, it's not like I've played that game like a ton, but I think the majority of that has been held back indeed by like the limited graphics. But like, if you look at like how this trailer looks, like, I mean, this looks looks way better than it does on Quest. Like, way better.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they're putting their big boy pants on, and it's got, like Quest felt like a little bit held back. This feels right to me. Like it feels like they're finally in. That's the game. Is it the
exact same game, or is it like something more actually?
Believe so. Okay. I believe it's the exact same game. Right. And so my question there is, I felt a little bit like, for those who know Halo, like I was caught in a red versus blue canyon. Do you know what I mean? Like you feel a little bit walled in. Like it's not expansive like a Far Cry. And so you did feel channeled, and I like in my survival games to feel a little bit more
open,
free. Yeah. I mean, not as free as like Skyrim, like run in this direction for 3 hours, but a little bit more freedom. So, but Dev Studio obviously knows what they're doing with making the game. The game works really well, and so I hope this is like a stepping stone to then either the next in this series or another IP that they would make that maybe gets a little bit more open, kind of like what we're seeing with Behemoth, right? You saw Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, now moving to Behemoth. I hope that's going to be a little bit more open world than just like corridors, streets, and cabinets. A couple more that were announced: Cave Digger 2, Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge.
Can I say one more thing about this?
Please. Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised, like, I don't know if anyone noticed it, but because these are gameplay videos, right? They're actual gameplays. They look super smooth. Yep. Super smooth. There's no real head bobbing. It's more like a moving camera that you see. Like, I'm wondering if they did any kind of like within the headset, like recording kind of tools that make it easier to record things, or if these things are like just like heavily processed afterwards.
There is a post render for output view for people that are watching, for spectating. So there's a lot of post rendering that's happening for the TV, and also there's a bunch of, I believe, the media share studio that the PlayStation platform is well known for. This time is 100% native into VR. Right. So the content creation tools.
Like if I look at the video, it's still enough for me to know that this is a VR game and this is a person wearing it, but it's not as staggering as, like, for example, the direct output that you get from Oculus or from Steam.
No, you can't, because on those headsets they're using software to essentially tap into it. So they're just screen recording essentially, where the PlayStation is actually recording at the GPU level. So you're getting that, and then you're getting a lot of post rendering for the TV. So it looks smoother, looks nicer.
And I saw that question in the chat pop up as well. Like, would that mean that you would be able to directly stream that to Twitch?
Yes, sir. That'd be
awesome.
I have some bits later on about that, and the short answer is yes. Okay.
Right.
Twitch. I don't know about the. I'll just say yes. I'll say yes for now. But I think Twitch, YouTube, I don't know if Facebook will, but they touched on that in a big FAQ. So I'll talk about that just in a little bit.
All right.
The last game in this run-up that really caught my eye, which was, I think, their showcase game, which is one I saw, I don't know if it was alpha or something like that on Steam, VR Skater. So VR Skater, for Tony Hawk fans and things like that, is set to be the most authentic, challenging, and immersive skating game ever. Their words, not mine. Picture the board under your feet, the rolling, the clicking sound of rubber wheels against the tiled pavement before you pop that perfect ollie. So this one is a really interesting idea. It takes me back, Rowdy, to when we saw that game where you were using your hands to control sticks that went down to feet to play a game of football. Sorry, soccer. And so this whole concept of using your controllers to kick off like kickflips, 360s, whatever it is, the kind of tricks you want to do, if they got that to feel just right, it's going to be amazing for skate nuts. Like, I think it's going to feel really good, but I don't know. It all comes down to that execution of how that feels.
You know what this reminds me of? Do you know those like things that you got with the cornflakes, those little skateboards you would have to do with your two fingers? Like you have to like
breakfast prizes.
That's like this is more like how I think this is played, right? Because it's really with your controllers, right? Rather than with anything else. I think this is how. I don't think it's really skating. Also because the I don't know why, but like when I look at this, the skateboard looks really small. Like it looks really, really small. Like if you look at it,
like a fingerboard.
Yeah, like a fingerboard. Exactly.
Yeah. I would love a really nicely polished like fingerboard skating game. Like I've seen a few of them riding around, but
not polished yet.
No, yeah, I want something like really high end. Like I would love a Tony Hawk, esque game with that style of gameplay. Will look really cool because I don't think you can create a realistic skateboarding experience if you're not on the board. So take the next best thing, which is fingerboarding, and then have the finger tracking and track a lot of cool moves, and then just focus on the map.
On a similar slant, the thing that I think video games haven't done a good job of is motorcycles. Like motorcycle games, you're the closest that you can get to, which still doesn't feel right in terms of how turning works and how the forces that you have when you're moving in a corner on a two-wheeled vehicle. You can't. There's not a direct corollary to flat video games. VR doesn't really help that. It gives you I'm in the headset, I can look around, but it doesn't give you the feeling of it. And that's a really important part of the experience. And that's where I think VR Skater has its highest challenge. So I can't wait to try it, get my feet on that deck, right, and see what it's like. But can you imagine a crossover between this and Ricky's Plank experience?
Oh, yes.
Well, that's what they showed at the ending, right? That's what they showed at the ending of the trailer.
A suspended like skateboard, and you just get on it on a headset.
Or you're grinding from building to building or something, and you get the verticality. That's amazing.
Yeah, though part of those skating games that had an appeal was also a little bit the ragdoll physics, I think, right? The when you did crash into something, like that's part of that. Like I wonder if they introduce any of that kind of stuff in the VR one as well, where when you crash you like zoom out for a moment or something.
Definitely not on the Quest 2. You do something like that on the Quest 2, it'll just like fry up. I don't think a headset can do physics like that.
No. Yeah, I don't. But I think the thing for me, like Tony Hawk games was always about the achievement hunting, like get the letter skate, right? Find the S, find the K.
The tapes.
And then the music, like the backing music being that punk teen stuff. Like, I mean, I want that. Yes. But maybe it's going to take, official Tony Hawk IP. I don't know. Tony Hawk's getting up there now. He's not 90 yet.
I was never into those games. I mean, I played a lot of Jet Set Radio Future. Loved that game. Like, I would love to see something like that more. But the actual skate games never really.
Have you tried Yakuza VR's Jet Set Radio World?
I have.
It's so good. I've spent. That's the only world I spent a lot of time on VR chat. It's been that world alone.
Lacuz is great. That's awesome. I played with him in Worms when I was there.
Oh, that's awesome.
He jumps on me every time I stream VR chat. It's great. The amount of worlds. But he like makes half the worlds I go and play. It's just funny. It's great.
I built this.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. When you go in and it's the creator and they're like, yeah. It's the same thing with Cyrex. He hit me up and he's like, hey, you want to check out my new world? I'm like, yeah.
That's such a weird concept where people are inviting you to their masterpieces. It's like, hey, I just decided to create this virtual world, like this eco space. Come check it out. It's like,
for me, I've gone through that more times than I've gone over someone's house for dinner, but it's the same thing. It's like, I made this wonderful meal, come enjoy it with me. And it just feels like a dinner party. It really does. So, but yeah, shout out to Lacuz and Cyrex for your worlds. I wanted to address that, like, Sony's media has felt a little bit absent, a little bit, right? Like a little bit like, are we in the Bermuda Triangle? Are you guys going to say nothing? They've been giving us breadcrumbs and a video here, a showcase there with information about PSVR2. Not the huge media campaign that we might have expected. But with that picking up and rumors rife on Reddit, there are rumors that Astrobot and AstrosPlayRoom might be getting day one support. Which I would not be surprised about. When I got my PS5, first thing I did was I plugged it in, played AstrosPlayRoom, and you unlock all the different pieces of hardware that they've made throughout the years, that Sony's made, including aim controller, touch controllers, the revisions of the PlayStation VR headset. And being able to see all this stuff in that environment, if you could do that in VR, that would be such an easy slam dunk. So this is one of the rumors that I'm going to buy into. And I do think that AstrosPlayRoom is going to have day one support, because we typically have had demo discs, whether physical or virtual, that help show off a number of experiences. And so, for example, later on in the PlayStation VR's lifecycle, they launched, I think, a second, maybe even a third demo disc, which had a whole bunch of things that you could sample. And I think they'll do that again. I really do. I think that's going to come. So fingers and toes crossed for a demo disc, but that's coming. And as we were going over the last 2 weeks, one of the things that Sony's been doing to me, I feel like they're doing it just to me, is dropping clips of open wheel driving games, such as Gran Turismo 7, which is coming. And it has seriously made me consider my staunch monk-like status on sim racing, where I've said, no, I'm going to sit here in prayer, and I'm going to repent, and I am not going to go back to sim racing and fall down that giant rabbit hole. I won't buy a wheel. No, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to fall for the GT7 sale that's on at the moment. None of that. I'm going to stay off. But God damn it, I see 120 hertz, and I got to talk about reprojection for a second. You've got the rain crawling up the glass on this open wheel thrilling ride, obviously, that's showing, and it's doing something to me, lads. I can't. It's doing something to me. Because reprojection is like a dirty word for VR enthusiasts generally, because you're like, I don't want you to fake 45 frames and make them seem like 90, or take 60 frames and make them seem like 120. But from all my years sim racing and Skyrim and all these other things, I can tell you, racing, for some reason, some magical mathematical reason, maybe it's the motion, reprojection is like a giant cheat, and it works amazingly. You cheat the system, you get great performance, you get all the extra details and visuals, you have your cake and you eat it too. For some reason, reprojection is great. So I think...
Is it the speed?
I don't know what it is.
I think it's the speed. I think it's because there's frame rates. Yeah.
It's just, it's something about, I think you remember when you gave us that podcast episode, Rowdy, where you talked about the refresh rates?
Yeah.
How important that is. Mm-hmm. And I think that brings it. But the fact that you're getting an improved frame rate plus the additional details at performance levels, it feels like you're cheating. It really does. And in no other VR game does that happen to me. You try to play in anything else, a non-racing game, and you crank up your settings, and I'll say crank down, and you go to like, okay, render half and cheat for the other half of the frames. You see it. It gets like artifacts in your view. I don't know how to describe it. Almost like that Moira, like foggy setting, and you feel it, you see it, and you don't like it. I think, Jose, were you saying that you're a picky guy when it comes to this stuff?
I am, and it's really cool because I looked at the reprojection on the PS5 is very unique. unlike any other VR reprojections you find, because they're using the same AI that they use for the checker rendering. So they're using the similar tech for upscaling, but this time they're using it to actually downscale the frame rate in order to optimize. Pretty much, they're adding checkered rendering into foveated rendering, so they're using the same tech into their own foveated rendering techniques.
What is checkered rendering? I'm not familiar with that.
So checkered rendering it's what the PS4 Pro did, which is allowed 4K upscaling, but the PS4 was still running at 900p. It was just using AI to make it look at 4K, which was breaking down the image into a lot of checkered boxes, and each box is being upscaled, thus creating a larger, crispier image. So they're using the same tech, but this time they're using it to split up visuals to optimize what you're looking at. So it's technically foveated rendering through reprojection, which creates the illusion of speed looking very well and very sharp. Yeah. It's also really dope because you can see it also in reprojection on the TV. So that's where post-processing comes in. That's where low-level capturing comes from, which goes to the point that you were talking about earlier. That's the reason they're not going to go all out on marketing. Meta had to do that because they didn't have the capacity of trusting content creators to showcase this really well. You're going to be able to do this with a button on the PS5. You'll be able to just share, upload. No, no editing, no logins. It'll sell
itself. Yeah.
It'll sell itself.
Thank you for describing that, because I wasn't sure how that technology differed from basically frame-to-frame linear interpolation, which is like, we're going from A, we're going to B, average, right? It's like an average function. And what you've described makes a lot of sense for me and clicks, and it's your special superpower, Jose. Thank you for bringing that to us. I appreciate that a lot. But that sheet is amazing. I did want to talk just very briefly about GT7, Gran Turismo. Obviously, a huge title. It's a full campaign. It's multiplayer. And the only thing that I want to fixate on out of all of that, and I'm sure it's sold like a bunch of units already, but one tiny little feature for me could be an enormous game changer. And it's just like if you're able to see the player's head turn, particularly an open wheel, so where you're not covered by the chassis of the car, and Rowdy's there next to me, and I'm here, and we're in the apex of the corner, and I can see him checking out my racing line, and I can check out his racing line, and we're fighting it, and we're like, you're looking ahead and looking to the side, and you're looking back and forth, and you're dogfighting basically on the track. If they allow that to happen in multiplayer, that's it. That's all I need, right? And that's it. I'm back into sim racing, and that's going to kill me. So I don't know yet if that's there, but as another level beyond that, if you allow flat gamers to play the game in multiplayer with VR players, which is true, you can cross-platform, but they see the head turn as well. It'll be like anyone who ever played Minecraft, I think it's called Vivecraft, and had player motions. Like you're playing your flat game, but you see that someone can point, I want to go to the cave over there. And it's like, it's an immediate sell when you see that. You're like, I want the higher fidelity gameplay. I want to be able to do that. That looks like fun. And all your mirror neurons are firing off. So,
don't worry, I don't know if it happens. The only thing you'll be seeing is the back of my head, so.
Yeah, this muffler.
But I do hope that I hope they bring Dirt Rally 2. Not so much Dirt 1 because they didn't render half the car in that one, but Dirt Rally 2 had great verticality, and it even took my breath away a few times. So I don't know. There's so much to come, but with that reprojection trick, I think racing games are going to be a real special treat for PSVR2. So with that being the kind of good side of the news, do you guys remember we talked about Mocopi? Mocopi, this little, what looked like grandma's pillbox.
Oh,
and there were 6 colorful little
the body trackers.
Body trackers that were kind of like, I think it was like 100 or 150. I don't remember the exact cost, but you would put these on your ankles, your wrists and stuff. And it was supposed to be like a simple way for VTubers to track their avatars. Well, I saw a really good video on YouTube by a VTuber called Meiko Fukusame TV, and a clip showing what didn't work. This YouTuber or VTuber imported from Japan tried it out and found, unfortunately, after an expensive import, how choppy the motion was, particularly in the, I'll call it like the VR chat style VTuber type avatar, where, you know, your leg is going from prone position, lifting up, and it's like snapping between different parts. It's not smooth motion. So the animation looks pretty poor. And it's not the same kind of drift as if, you know, your headset loses track and something goes floating off, but it's not far from that. And so, you know, just the net message here was, if you're into that, into body tracking, Mocopi is probably a skip. You know, unless you just want to do a quick setup, do a take somewhere as a VTuber might. But for social settings, looked like, as an update to the kind of that tech, maybe it's not really a winner, right?
Of course this is a guy. Like, I was like, there's no way that this is a girl, you know? I was like looking at this video, and I was like,
no
wait
copy
a minute.
for the Mocopi.
I actually don't know. So the VTuber jumps to a couple of different clips in their video, some of which were directly from Sony's original promo trailer. So I don't know if the VTuber who you see on the screen was the person that then you saw with the anime character.
Right. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
There's 5 or 6 people in the whole length of their video. So
right. Okay, I didn't get that.
Who knows? The voice sounded feminine, but it's 2023, so who cares, right? Whichever side of the spectrum they're on. But thank you
using
for
voice mod.
An update. Yeah, a lot of people do. Hey, if you do it, you know, it's do what you want to do. What makes you happy? It's all good. So with that, along a similar line, more things that Sony was kind of showering us with since the last podcast. We got a trailer from the game called Garden of the Sea. So we got a new trailer for this. This is another one of those games that I would put into the class of porting to PSVR2. How much do I expect in terms of 3D audio, facial haptics? You know, probably not a lot. So this is probably more, you know, just a port than anything else. I don't know. I was kind of curious to show this off here just to see if it gets rowdy, horticulturally hot, because it's a game about planting seeds and growing things in VR.
Of course.
Have you played this, Rowdy? I assume not, but
no, I haven't.
Garden
played
of
this.
the Sea.
No,
okay,
for sure.
So it's just to give people a bit of a. It feels a little bit like Animal Crossing to me, in that you're planting seeds and stuff, but as you do this, as you craft, you're like opening bridges and you're kind of continuing through the world.
Like Stardew Valley.
Yeah. It starts, yeah, like Stardew. It starts to open up, right? So it's like a Stardew for VR. So if you're looking for a friendly game, you know, it's not just all about Lady D. You know, check this out. Plant some seeds into
this looks
something
awesome.
Else.
This looks amazing.
It's very nice. It's a very nice game. I think that's the best way I would just put it, right? So that's another one that we got.
Because I think I have seen it. Is this flat as well?
Ooh, I don't know if it's flat. I know for sure it's on other VR sets, right? It's on Quest, for example. I think it's in Steam. It's got that look though that another game could do just the same thing, and you'd be like, oh, I've seen that in the Flatland.
Yeah.
Also, you know, like the camera tricks that we see now, a lot of flat games to make their game look more immersive, give that smooth camera, like the smooth Hollywood action camera shot, which if you do it from a first-person player character, it looks like, hey, it's a VR game now. And so you'll see it and you'll be like, oh yeah, it's a VR game, but then it isn't. That's always a kick in the balls for me. I don't know. I've been seeing more and more of that lately. So that's Garden of the Sea, but we keep getting these games kind of drip fed to us, which is great. But from here, I want to paddle from this particular pond out into the wide unboxing sea, because we only just got hit with that recently, like a tidal wave of this stuff. I mean, it went to the extent that even Sony unboxed their own headset, which I was kind of a little bit flabbergasted at. I don't think we got, you know, Meta unboxing their headset, but I guess it's a safety play, right? And the lady who did it, named Kay, she didn't look very surprised, but I just assumed that that's because she just put the box together right before they rolled to record it and unbox it. You know, she's like, I've just finished manufacturing it. Now let's show them what's in the box.
Just got ready out of it.
That's what it looked like. But it was a nice, clean video, and it works as a nice guide, you know, covering what to expect in the box.
I love how they went like, this is the power button. And they like write like the text next to the power button that says like power button.
it's a kind of a classic, or it's kind of your standard offering from like a giant like Sony. It covers all the basics. This is the cord. This is the headset. Here's
Function
the gasket.
buttons.
Function buttons all over. But I think the thing for me that I took from that video, and I skipped through it. I skipped through a lot of the unboxing videos. Like, you know, I'll watch 5 seconds total of it because I don't want to spoil for myself. But like, you can reuse this box for storage is what they claim. But because the headset fits nicely in, because like that's one of the things that's nice about Meta's stuff is that the boxes have always been good for like storage thereafter, travel. You can kind of use them in that way if you don't want to pay for a storage case, which is a lot of people. So it's nice that they did that, but I don't believe them. I don't believe them at all because the blue cover of the PSVR 1 box ripped so easily for me. I unboxed it live at the PSVR 1 and I was like really sad that I ripped open the box cover. And this one, I'm gonna have to be like surgically careful with it because it looks like they used the exact same like flimsy, not even cardboard, just paper cover, you know, to the thing. And if you want to like have it sitting behind you or something, I know it's a content creator problem, but like not ripping boxes is something I just, it matters to me. I'm one of those weird people. Even if I'm not on camera, I don't want to rip my box. So I just love it. But yeah, unboxing. So IGN, healthy span of like tech influencers like iJustine were unboxing PSVR2s and all at the same day, right? So several VR YouTubers got the opportunity. We had Mike, Gamertag, you know, but some were absent, like PSVR Without Parole, Polish Paul, you know, the staple kind of VR, PSVR guys. They're staples of the community, but it happens with every launch, you know, and it comes down to who's networked, you know, very closely with Sony,
Exactly.
who isn't.
That is
doesn't really matter the size of the audience, right?
They
And
contacted
who's
me
already,
as well.
yeah.
That's the
yeah,
thing.
you said that,
They
Rowdy.
contacted me as well to see if I was interested. Of course, the Belgian department, but since I'm not in Belgium anymore, I didn't proceed with it. But they're very close knitted with their network, and once you're in there, then yeah, sure, they keep on contacting you for that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But it was nice. It's nice to see it. The thing that I really liked about it was that it felt like a very well executed product launch plan coming out at a nice high quality bar, and people seemed to be kind of happy with it on net, right? So that's very good to see. We haven't really gotten to the crux of what's good and bad about the headset. That's still under control. We don't know when the embargo date is yet, although some people are saying the 15th of February, which looks more and more likely, and I'll get to that in a moment. One thing I did want to comment on, simply because he's the next podcast member, Nathie pulled a trick with his own, and he flew out to Fast Travel Games and did an unboxing video, which I watched the video day one when it dropped, and it honestly rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, just the title, because it wasn't an unboxing video, and he was working on a dev kit, and it was like, okay, he's just doing his usual Nathie thing, right? But it led to a hellfire, which is not abnormal with Nathie, on Reddit. And, you know, they gave him an enema for his misleading and somewhat deceptive tactics in the video. But the video itself was actually really well comprised, covered a bunch of stuff. But obviously, right, and now that we see what happened afterwards, which is this big unboxing, Sony must have been really pissed. Like, because they obviously put a lot of plan in terms of doing this unboxing thing. And they struck it down with a copyright claim. And to my knowledge, since this morning, it's still offline. So, you know.
But how can that be a copyright claim?
It's not. It's a dev unit. It's not. There's legal practices how you acquire it.
Yeah, it'll be a problem more for fast travel.
I think, rather than Nathie. No?
So it's kind of like it's gonna suck for them. This will blow by, right? But I think it's gonna.
But wait, can you explain it to me, Jose? Because like, how can Nathie, who's not under a contract whatsoever?
But fast travel.
What you're asking is how is a copyright claim on his video
Nathie's channel
a legal takedown? Why are they allowed to do that without getting themselves in court trouble?
There is the loophole is when the product is not released yet publicly, so it is under embargo legally. And whoever has access to these headsets for development sign a different contract. Like, you must not give this to content creators. You must not do unboxing.
I understand that.
Nathie didn't receive permission to go to Fast Travel and do an unboxing of Fast Travel's development headset.
Well,
That's what he did.
I mean, I'm not going to conjecture about what did or didn't transpire, but what I can say is, now that we've seen this unboxing release, is likely they had a contract around, just like any non-disclosure agreement, where they would say, you're not able to disclose this, and you're not allowed to give it to someone else to disclose it. So I'm standing with Rowdy a little bit, right? Yes, FTG are probably in hot water. And,
incredibly hot water. Sony does not forgive.
But does Nathie have legal recourse to Sony to say, you can't take my video down, right? Because it's really an interesting
Nathie
place.
recorded the video, right?
Nathie can defend himself as a journalist, but
I don't know
going all the way back to the Apple, for the 3GS leak, there is some ownership of a device that's not publicly sold because Nathie didn't buy the product. So,
but we see that
technically
so often. For example, when the new Pixel got released, like it got leaked, and someone left a phone in a bar, and someone picked it up and recorded a video with it, showing the operating system. They tried taking it down, but they had no recourse in doing so.
Exactly.
It's not their video; it's their device, and you have to give it back.
What Nathie did. I agree. It's incredibly different. There's a development unit, and also Nathie sold it as this was a unboxing video that kind of almost tacked itself into the algorithm and looked like it was part of the official Sony wave. So Sony legally can say, "Hey, look, we had a recourse system in place to showcase this a curated way, and somebody circumvented that system, and they used a publisher who signed a contract legally to not do this."
Of course,
that's where the hot water begins.
But I still think Rowdy's got a point.
It's a really copyright claim. They're claiming the copyright of Nathie's video, which I don't think is correct. I don't think they own that video.
I really want to know. I want to know
that I agree with.
Like, this is one for
information.
That subreddit where you go grab one of these sidearm lawyers who's like, I'm a lawyer of the day. Ask me a question. I want to go ask them this question because
it's just out of interest.
Whilst I don't agree with the original title and it was baiting and stuff like that,
it's licensing. It comes.
I think what Sony go on.
Sorry, as a tech, I can generally answer this with confidence. It's licensing. There's no such thing as, for example, you don't own a PlayStation 5, you don't own a PSVR2. Yep. In the manufacturer's warranty, none of the devices that you use, at the end of the day, they have full ownership of this device. They can go into your house and legally grab your PSVR2 and say, "Hey, we own it," and that there's no legal recourse you have because it's theirs. There's a licensing. There's explicit usage when you sign up to the account. When you open up all the way up to literally the tearing off of the box, you are under their ownership. It's really weird. It's bizarre.
But I'm really
I don't respect it.
Particularly, right? If you're in a different legal jurisdiction, you're in a different country. The legal ramifications of this are really interesting, and we won't spend the whole podcast on it.
Super fickle. No, it's super fickle, but yeah, it's scary. But trust me, they will have. Trust me, it's scary. Especially when it comes to Sony or Microsoft. Like I have from the back end, behind the scenes, have dealt with them when it comes to hardware. Especially Sony, they do not forgive. It's scary.
I know this is somewhat of a foible, and I know it doesn't look good on FTG nor Nathie, right? And I'm like, Nathie likes playing with fire, and it's part of his success path, right? I like to say it's a little bit Trump-esque in that, it's like no news is bad news to some extent. Yeah. But I want to go all the way back to a conversation I had with Nathie when we were first talking about the podcast back at VR Inside. One of the reasons I joined the podcast, and way back then, there was all this kick up on Reddit. Again, this is years ago now, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Again, people with pitchforks going after Nathie for something. And I felt like one of the people with the pitchforks. But the reason I wanted to do a podcast with somebody who was so kind of different to me, facing off the other side of the table, is that makes such a good discussion. Like, you don't grow, you don't learn unless you can have a debate with somebody, sword fight to some extent, and learn from the things that maybe you had a different perspective of before you had a chat. And so I'll say, I'm not here to defend him. He does what he wants to do. That was always the case. It's the same thing for the new crew. You guys do your own things, right? But I really like the fact and I think this is important, especially now with the effect of social media, because it seems to be putting people into just good and just bad, and it's never that clean. And like, you need to just come to the table, have the conversation, and that's what podcasts are for. It's for this stuff, and that's why I wanted to bring it up today. Was just because, hey, let's acknowledge that thing happened. Let's see how they recover from it.
At the end of the day, it's badass.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, it's
you're not sending me a PSVR2? I'll go and get one.
Exactly. Right? Hop on a plane and do it. And that is absolutely the fire that keeps him as an entrepreneur alive. You know what I mean? So
damn straight.
And I can appreciate that. So getting back to the unboxing videos, it has been an absolute flood. I'm sure everyone's kind of like sick of them at this point, but it seemed well timed. It was a healthy dose of quality videos. So Sony have done a good job on the control for their release plans, I would say. And now we're just getting so close, and it feels great. And are there more surprises in the pipeline? I think maybe, but to the point that you were making, Jose, they posted the ultimate FAQ, which is like this whole run of questions. I'm so glad they did this because, and I don't know what their source was for the FAQ. They've just boiled it up internally, or did they go out to the internet and actually ask? I didn't see any asks from Sony, so they must have just, either they just know what people are going to ask for or what. But I wanted to pull from that FAQ and just give a couple of tidbits of things that people might not have seen. So first off, play area, standard stuff. If you're going to be doing room scale, I'm doing that with like quotations around it because warehouse room scale doesn't exist anymore, right? Room scale, 2 meters by 2 meters, right? Or if you're sitting or standing, 1 meter by 1 meter. Someone asked the question, well, if I don't have that much space and I'm sitting in a small studio apartment or something, can I play with less? I think the answer is going to be yes, but it just means you're guardian. You could whack your controller against a wall, is what I understand. They do recommend a well-lit room for playing, which tells us what we would have expected for an inside-out headset is that playing in the pitch dark probably not going to work. And you might need to get an IR flutter or something to make that happen if you do want to sit and play in the dark like you did on your PSVR 1. The other thing is a TV is required for the setup of the PSVR 2. But if you're on the go like Jose and you've got your briefcase with the PS5 in it and another briefcase with your PSVR 2 in it, you can just plug them together. You don't need a TV. You could just play sans TV. And the other thing that's really cool, if you can play sans TV, it means you could be sitting on the couch playing your game and your spouse or whatever, your dorm mate, can be sitting there watching TV. You can just have a nice social chat and you play your VR game, they play the thing. You try not to knock the beer out of their hands, with the controller. So that's a great one. I love that. I'm glad that they confirmed it. They also confirmed parental controls. That's going to be important, for certain games that are on there. It's only one headset at a time. There is only one USB-C port on the PS5. So that's kind of an obvious one, but you can't run multiple headsets with that. Of course, from a rendering perspective, that wouldn't work. It's also why I think split screen doesn't work in things like GT7. I wonder from back in the patents, are we going to get asynchronous gameplay though? Like, are we going to get where Rowdy's in the headset? Like, I expect you to die. Keep talking and nobody explodes. Like, what about games like that where, I'm playing on the screen, you're playing on the headset? Is that going to work? Anything like that? I haven't seen a single game yet. So I'm wondering if there's a technical limitation. There shouldn't be, but waiting to see because I want those kinds of games. The other one, broadcast, you asked this one, Jose, a bit earlier and alluded to it. Will broadcast work? So will the share button work and all that? So the short answer is yes. If you have the HD camera, you can show your body as well. Their camera's not great, but if you don't want the setup of a capture card and a DSLR and all that stuff, for not a lot of money, you can put yourself on the camera, get yourself out streaming. Okay, so that's the option. Will the PSVR2 Sense controllers work without the headset? And that's a yes. So they will work for limited applications. So you can use the user interface on the PS5. I think that's great because if you didn't have it, you might feel like, I've got to grab the DualSense the DualSense, and then grab my VR controller. So you can use those from the get-go, which is smart. You can use them in media application, which I'm not a Sony guy. Help me out here, Jose. Is that just for like listening to music, watching videos?
Like watching videos, YouTube, probably Plus,
or Blu-rays, I guess, right?
Blu-rays, yep.
So you can use your Blu-ray and sit there with beer in one hand and a Sense controller in the other.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hopefully it can track it'll be dope. I don't think it's going to be able to, but it'll be dope if it could track the actual pointer. That'd be awesome. Like a smart TV.
Huh.
That'll be dope.
I don't think it can. I don't think it can.
I don't think it can, but it'll be awesome.
Yeah. Maybe, but even with the gyro, you think maybe they could, I don't know, maybe they could do something.
That'll be amazing.
You will not be able to use the Sense controllers for non-PSVR2 games, which to me, being a Switch player, is a little bit of it's a little sad, but you can understand. They'd have to controller map it or be limited, and makes sense. It is designed, this headset is designed for players with glasses. So if you have glasses that aren't like crazy wide, then you'll be able to fit in there. The facial interface is able to be removed and wiped down with water to be cleaned. They say don't use alcohol or anything like that. Don't use paper towels on the lenses. So your standard stuff applies. And I would just like to circulate one warning that was going around on Reddit, which is really important for a Fresnel lens and panel combination, which is avoid sunlight. Don't leave your headset out pointing towards an open window. Your safest bet, I would recommend, is get some kind of a light blocker or a glove or a sock or whatever you want to put in there when you're leaving the headset alone for hours, because sun does move during the day and you really don't want to fry that panel and have to replace your headset. So that's one thing. And I already mentioned the point about the MagSafe connector if you want to kind of try that out, but that's a bit of a gamble. The only other tip I have is one for Canadians, which is just 2 days ago, they unlocked Amazon shipping changes. So if you happened to pre-order in Canada with Amazon, the default shipping option is 5 to 6 days, saying it'll come to you like between February 28th and March 1st or 2nd. You can now upgrade that. Doesn't matter if you're on Prime or not. You need to go there and physically change the shipping speed. Prime, I think you just press it and it just kind of resubmits, and it should snap back to launch day delivery on the 22nd. And if you're a non-Prime member, you can pay about $6 Canadian to upgrade. So just wanted to throw that out there for my Canadian brothers and sisters. And finally, and this is to the point about the embargo, when do we think the Iron Curtain is going to fall? The prediction out there from Reddit for the last day or so has been Wednesday the 15th. And we just had about 4 or 5 hours before the podcast, Sony announced Returnal is coming to PC, and put out this lovely tweet about Returnal coming to PC Wednesday the 15th. And so I've got a little prediction here to make, because I think Returnal would make, honestly, the best third-person VR game conversion yet, even beating Chronos, which was an amazing title by Gunfire Games. I think Returnal could be VRified, could be announced. I know it's a stretch, but I'd love to, before launch, hear, oh, guess what? It's coming to VR2. Like, that would be amazing if we got that news next Wednesday.
February 18th is the embargo release for PSVR2.
How do you know that?
I cannot disclose that.
Jose, I love you, man. I love you. Is that Friday? Or is that a Saturday?
I believe so.
Let's check it out.
Just looking through some emails here that I received.
Friday. That's so funny. You're like, yeah, I got it. No, don't worry, I got you. 18th, boom. 18th is a Saturday, so it's 1 week before the next podcast. Okay, there you go. Jose said it.
Maybe a day before, but it's definitely that weekend.
All right. 18th. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Reddit's going to clip that out, and they're going to go chuck it.
Oh, jeez.
And be citing
all over the web. I mean, there's definitely some stuff that's related to it. I'm pretty sure they would map out during the same time frame. So
got it.
Let's go for those few days.
Well, we will take your crystal ball for this one. But yes, I would really like to see Returnal VRified. I would 100% pay to be in that game world again. Amazing. Everything from jumping platforms to the amount of things that are being shot at you in bullet hell. Just the environments absolutely needs to be there. If not now, in a future month or year. And so that's our PSVR2 rundown of all the stuff that's been hyped. Guys, did I miss anything in that, or anything else you want to get off your chest before we move into the meta what the fuck portion?
I was surprised because you found things that I didn't even know about. So yeah, that's pretty neat. Well, good job.
Tis my job. All right. Well, chat, tell us If we missed anything, let us know. It's always good. I watch back the podcast as a sad guy. I always try to go back and sample what we did, and if we said anything wrong, then I can apologize for it or whatever. But it's nice in chat. You guys share so much with us, and I'm sorry that I can't, digest that at the same time as talking to you, because the live streamer in me bleeds for that. But let's move on. Meta. I'm calling this Meta WTF for several reasons. Okay, this is the second big part of the podcast. So, VR giant Meta has been copying Apple for years in their marketing and pricing strategies, but has grown less sure of itself. As Sony were responding to the little news kerfluffle with Bloomberg, Meta decided to start cutting of its own. So they cut Lone Echo and Onwards and several other things. But their posts about woes for Meta are being purged. It's all a bit messy, honestly, since Boz took the reins over from Carmack as CTO. And meanwhile, I have to say, as a shareholder, I do own stock, I'm a bit nervous for them. Staff cuts to get leaner. That's many companies right now. Doesn't make me terribly nervous, but it's a portion of it. Then slashing the cost of the Quest Pro from $1,500 down to $1,100 so soon. Let's just pause there. How does that make you feel, Jose, after your purchase?
I'm upset. I'm upset. To be honest with you, I've been holding back my hatred for the Quest Pro. I'm giving them another month, or else. But there's just it makes sense why they're doing that. I think it's not even worth the $1,000 ask. It should be less. Wi-Fi still broken. From a technical perspective, there's a lot of weird stuff that I'm experiencing with the device that I'm not really ready to talk about just yet because I have to do some experiments, but sure. I'm starting to realize why the Wi-Fi updates are taking a little bit longer. I'm suspicious of the engineering with the Wi-Fi in those devices. I think that they're not working, or there might be some manufacturer firmware defect on these on the Quest Pro.
Do you mean, sorry, just in communications, do you mean headset to IS, like to router?
I guess
headset to controllers?
I'll talk about it briefly. I do a lot of experiments with Wi-Fi streaming with headsets around each other, how they coexist. The Quest Pro is emitting a field of data around itself, like a weird digital grid that's happening, that devices are being knocked off from tracking near it. Any VR headset, the Pico 4, the Quest 2, just a bunch of headsets have tracking issues, communication issues near the Quest Pro. It's very bizarre. I want to know why. Now I'm starting to wonder why the 6E antenna upgrade firmware hasn't been fully implemented yet. There might be some weird Wi-Fi issues. The controllers use Wi-Fi antennas. So maybe there is something happening that they didn't anticipate happening, or it wasn't tested.
Do you mean there's like a Cone of Silence app? The Cone of Silence was a product, if I remember correctly, that was on, not Shark Tank, what's the UK equivalent? Dragon's Den, where owners of yachts, owners of yachts wanted to be able to troll their neighbors when they were docked and say, I want internet, but I don't want my neighbors to get internet.
Yes.
And so is that what the Quest Pro is doing on
Wi-Fi?
Is technically, that what you mean? It's like blocking
it's
the
very
Wi-Fi
bizarre. It's not allowing data to transmit from just completely external endpoints to each other the way that it should. I don't know if it's a 6E wireless limitation or some kind of this is very high end testing stuff that I'm dealing with, but it's only happening with the Quest Pro, and I've tried it with two Quest Pros. They don't like to work really well around each other, which got me thinking about the AR pass-through videos with Mark Zuckerberg showing himself fencing with somebody else on a Quest Pro. Yep. Because now I'm like, wait a minute, how did this work? Because you can't really do this effectively around each other. There's a weird emitter that's happening. I don't know what it is. I'm still testing with it.
You mean multiple headsets when they're in proximity to one another?
Oh yeah, it gets really bad. The controllers don't track well. It's bizarre. I've been playing around with it for the last week, doing some testing with streaming with headsets, and everything works except the Quest Pro. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think anybody's been doing this kind of testing out there. So I don't know if anyone has similar data, but I'm definitely looking forward to maybe let's signal boost this and see if somebody's having anything with that.
Play with other kits.
Yeah. Doesn't like it.
It's really interesting, Jose. And you know, I always like hearing your impressions because you're both bought into it, kind of on the spiritual level, but you also care about the technology and you have a good understanding of the grounding of how it functions. So especially when you see it, not playing well with other devices, something's up here, and you're probably onto something.
It's so bizarre. The Pico 4 streams perfectly on 6E to the computer next to the Quest 2. They can interact the Focus 3. I turn XR Elite. They all played around each other. Turn on the Pico, the Quest Pro. Everything shuts down. Nothing works around each other. They don't want to stream. The Quest Pro is being choppy. There's no. It's bizarre. Wow. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what it is.
Also, shout to my friend Chris Richardson, who says, "Get Smart is the origin of the Cone of Silence." That is an ancient show. That is so old. I don't mean the recent like Hollywood reboot. I mean the original that's way back. I don't even think they had wireless anything back then. I'll have to check out that. Amazing. Oh, and thanks Jack. So I'm just gonna keep going here, but it does seem to me like Meta are a little bit in survival mode, especially with Facebook going down and Meta being the horse that they're backing. And they seem to be bailing water. Does that mean they'll sink? I hope not. I really hope not. I think they've done a lot of good. I know there's like all kinds of shitty things that Meta as a company have done over the years. I'd like to hope that they can grow out of this and turn into something a bit better and not turn into IOI. I really hope that that's not their future.
They're not going to disappear.
Man, it's really funny that you said that about IOI because I was earlier going to make a joke about that. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. I feel that Meta will be IOI. IOI is the oasis, right? The people that are trying to free that world are the ones that are against IOI. But if there's no IOI, there will be no metaverse, there will be no oasis, so there will be no. I feel like
I don't know that. Does it have to be? Do the reins have to be held by a single company? I don't know.
Like
from a standards, open standards, yeah, exactly. So the internet itself is a feeding plate.
Yeah.
No, but the thing about the internet, like
even though the internet is like 60% Amazon servers, but
I knew I was going to say something.
Of course,
But that's what I'm trying to say. It's like if Meta wants to say, "Hey, look, we'll just build all the infrastructure of the internet," let them. As long as they're successful on that, and then we can do whatever we want. Let them become IOI.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy when you look at things like the dark side of the internet, like separate servers that are interconnected, like dark web, and the internet as we know it is like the happy place, right? But there are other layers to this like sandwich that many people don't interface with. I'm sure Jose does, knowing what we know about him and all the USB devices he knows. But like there are different ecosystems out there, and it's not about just the Meta coupling or the Apple one or the it's a little bit about where we're headed with this. And this is where I have to sing a little bit of a song of caution, a cautionary tale. So I'm going to harken back. People generally, and 85% of you are going to be like, please don't talk about the Oculus Go. I'm going to talk Go just for a little bit, just a couple of sentences.
Go,
and there's a reason, okay? Meanwhile, Jose raps to it. When you hear elders saying that history repeats itself, and it kind of falls on deaf ears as you're a teenager, and then you get older and you go, oh shit, they were right. I should be worried about this thing or that thing. And you're like, do I have enough time left in my life to correct it for the next generation? And it kind of feels like passing hot coals from one to another. Well, I'm having that feeling with Meta right now. And I say that because I spoke before about how my Face Your Fears content had just up and left, i.e. there were 2 demo rooms and then all the DLC content just gone. And lately I checked it out. I was checking out the Dispatch title, which is like this immersive entertainment. You're like a 911 operator. And it's one of the most like soul clenching, gripping, interactive experiences that I've had in VR. It was this daunting little project with a wonderful like visual like nodes. So a person was almost like a stick figure, but drawn with nodes in this like mesh, this like 3D mesh. This was a project from Here Be Dragons and a great UK dev called Nick, who goes by Red of Paw, who kind of built this thing together. And I've always yearned for more like that. Just to give people an impression of what Dispatch meant to me, the top comment on the Oculus Store still, I'm kind of surprised that the Oculus Go page is still up and active. There's a great quote here, and I'll just call that out. Someone called Sam says, one of my favorite apps, and this is about Dispatch, incredible concept, executed flawlessly, each episode built on the emotion left in the previous episode, creating an captivating experience that left me wanting more. Expansion episodes are worth the buy. They're only like $2 each, I remember. And I hope to see episodes added in the future. And we didn't get extra episodes, but the ones that were there are gone. They're taken away. And so this is the Cliff Notes, okay? Meta appear to be very happy to kill a device off. We've seen it with Go. We've seen it with Rift S. We're seeing it with Quest 1 this year. They're happy to kill a game off, right? And they're also happy to kill your digital media with very little forewarning. And so this is my point, right? What you pay for, you get today and maybe tomorrow. But realize that it's probably not going to be here 10 years from now, right? When you get those nostalgic feelings and you're like, you want to come back and revisit. Nope, server's going to be offline. And that stitched denim jacket embroidered with Henry's cute little face that you bought from the Meta Store, that's gone, right? You paid your money, you got it for a time period, you rented it basically, and then the jacket evaporated. So that's where I feel like Meta is now. And for me, my trust level with them is like, oh, you're selling temporary goods. That's what you're selling. At least we know, we can look each other in the eye and say, you are selling temporary goods, whether it be software or hardware or digital assets. And that's all you can kind of really believe in, you know?
Or stock.
Yep.
So
There's
stock.
Yeah.
Rowdy, you have had so many good jokes this podcast, man.
It's so good.
You're killing it.
That's my job.
Software, expect a software company to act like a software company. They're that's exactly what I meant by the IO9 stuff. It's like Mark Zuckerberg does not want a gaming company. He said it. The expectations versus what they're saying are at odds. Like people have to accept that the Oculus, what they were selling back in the day, that's not Boz. Boz has no intention of building a gaming company. They're a metaverse company. They're building the foundation for the future internet. You want VR games? Go to PlayStation. I've been saying this. They've earned that reputation. Yeah,
it kills me because like we were talking about that emulator the other day, right? Where you could clone an actual physical cartridge into the digital realm and go play your SNES game or your N64 game and be like, oh yeah. Sorry, I know North Americans, you call it SNES, but it's an Irish thing. We call it SNES. You're like, what's a SNES? Is that some kind of illness? But it's like, you know, going back to games you used to play, like there was a sense of ownership there and like having something that had that permanence to it. I definitely want that when I have games. And I was really nervous early on with Steam. I remember with the digital assets there, I was like, how long is this going to last before they fall over? I'm glad they haven't. If they did, 2,000 games are gone overnight, right?
But also remember what made people fall in love with Steam's proposition. And I remember when Steam came out, and I don't remember if they changed the clause, but I remember when you made the account, and this is when Steam released with Half-Life. I remember they had like a clause where they were like, oh, your digital distribution, if something happens to us, your licensing will get sold to a company. Like they had a backup plan to ensure that there was licensing for this. And I remember that being the switch that made me go like, okay, I trust them.
I'm in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember Steam back in its green days. You remember what it was, that like murky green color?
Murky green, yeah. Man,
we were going between like Cork lands at the time playing Counter-Strike with my buddies. But man, good times. Yeah. I'm just going to say that. And before we get too far away from it, I wanted to say, if you like the sound of what Dispatch was and you want to experience that yourself, even if you can't right now in this way, there was a film that does a very, very good job of giving you the same emotional landscape with Jake Gyllenhaal called The Guilty. The Guilty. Check that out. It's on Netflix. Before Netflix rolls out their pay $7.99 if you're sharing an account, go watch The Guilty. I recommend it. It's similar tension and story elements, which make you feel a little bit of discomfort and ultimately
it's a remake,
put you
by
right.
the way. It's not the original. The original is, I think, a Spanish movie. I think.
Always the best ones. What's the other one like that?
I think so, because I saw the
Vanilla
original.
Sky.
Yeah.
That's another one like that.
Yeah.
But
I'm not entirely sure.
I didn't know that was the original.
I saw them both. I saw them both, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one did you like more? I'm curious.
I think the Jake Gyllenhaal one was actually the best one, I think.
Can't go wrong with Jake.
Man, I went on a binge recently. I watched like 10 of his movies. He's just bulletproof, dude. He does a great job. Anyway, so that's on the film side of things. But don't worry, right? You have a Meta, you have a Quest, whatever. Meta are still cultivating plenty of emotionally gripping VR content, like the Oreoverse. In celebration, please roll this one, Rowdy. In celebration of a new Oreo product, the most Oreo. I don't even know what it is. There's a metaverse experience accessible on MetaQuest 2 and Pro that features cookie-themed games for a chance to win $50,000 US.
Of course.
I can't even fathom all of this.
We need more money in VR. That's why, if they spend enough money in VR, then people will eventually buy their product.
I just want to know where that 50,000 is coming from, and it's coming from the servers for Echo. Seriously, where the fuck? All right. So, operating under the cringy tagline of "Dunk into the Oreoverse," both Martha Stewart, yes, the Martha Stewart you know and maybe don't love, and Ryan McAllister streamed this on January 30th, and it looked like a train wreck. And I love it, Rowdy. What you're showing now is great. It's just incredible.
But even how they recorded it, why is it recorded on this like?
No, this is someone's TikTok.
Okay.
Someone's YouTube short, right? This is not.
All right, I was like, wow, like is this the video they're using to promote this? Okay,
but this is how people see it. This is the point. Feckin' nobody. I'm not gonna say nobody, but very few people are gonna have gone into Horizon and experienced just the same thing like they did with Wendy's and the Wendy's promotion and the Wendyverse, the Oreoverse.
It highlights the capture situation. That's the problem. It's like you can't capture. What's the point of building all these amazing metaverse, set pieces if you can't take a picture of them properly, record yourself? It's like, hey, look at me at 4 frames per second. It's
So you might want to be asking what's in the Oreoverse, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. There are games ranging from stack stuff, where fans will build the most Oreo cookie, to rocket stuff, where fans will inflate the most Oreo cookie.
But
that's it.
But if you read I don't know if this news agency, they were probably paid to write this, but if you read the caption line, incredible stuff awaits. The Oreo brand's most playful cookie ever twists open the most playful world ever. Like, what do you mean? Like, no. Just no. Just go home.
Yeah, go back off.
Listen, every time I enter the metaverse to get double stuff Oreos. So that's all I do. Listen,
who's waiting for this? Who's waiting for this?
Why are they paying these people? Right? Why are we paying 81-year-old Martha Stewart to flog Horizon Worlds? Why?
See, let's not turn this into a one-hour podcast. But it's the lack of people talking about this properly. Only the executives very high up, they want to get involved in this space, and that 81-year-old Martha Stewart's agent is the only one who happens to have a social account that goes metaverse, and they find whoever has money.
I as a shareholder, that kind of stuff being in the news in parallel to the 0G floating gorilla in the room, which is Echo VR being sunset, which we'll talk about now, to me is awful. It's awful. Yeah. I see that and I go, you guys don't know the fuck where you're going. Pardon me.
Hold on.
It's
because I'm so confused about this. Is Facebook or Meta, whatever they're called, are they paying Oreo? Because my impression seeing this is Oreo is paying Facebook to use it.
Yeah. It's Reality Labs. Okay. It's their division that they're building metaverse worlds.
Fair enough. This is Reality Labs?
Well, their division for the ads on their digital world layer, they probably seek out and say, hey, who has money? We'll build you this something really cool. And then an investor sees it. It goes like, oh, this is incredible. My investors will like this and sign it off. And then they show a video. They're so disconnected from this. They don't expect people to try this. They know this. This is to impress a 85-year-old super high up advertiser owner for Oreos, and he sees this video and goes like, oh, the youngins are loving this. That's it.
But they're not saying that. No one's saying that. I guarantee you, no one is saying that. They'll see the footfall in the traffic and they'll say this didn't work. This wasn't worth the 50 grand that we put the prize.
Yeah.
No, wait, don't tell me that.
That's the scary part, is that they fluff up the user base of the Oculus platform with Horizon users. That's why they're so interconnected. So advertisers don't see the actual viewership. They only see the connected amount. So they get conflated. This is how magic money gets printed in advertising.
But right, and I'm falling into their trap here. I know that, right? But I had to say this because the whole point is big name person, big name brand, metaverse, magic word. Here, let's make money, right? And they do these fluff articles to just garner attention because they're kind of dumb. And then people post them on their socials and boom, it's, instead of a marketing budget, oh, that's my marketing spent and I'm sorted. I don't have to put it on buses. I get that. I just see it as a sin. I see this as such a sin. And I get emotionally into it. Like I do get wrapped into it because I want to see Meta as a company fix their stuff and succeed and not put money into this. And just never put money into this. Like you can do stupid stuff as a company, that's fine, and do stupid marketing campaigns. But
still, you did a 6-hour live stream in the Oreoverse, right?
Meanwhile, Mark Zuckerberg is like fighting like UFC fighters in virtual avatars. I don't know if you guys saw that video floating around.
No.
Oh yeah, there's like a video of ESPN where Mark Zuckerberg is UFC fighting in motion capture suit, and he's grappling. I don't know if they're setting up I don't know if they're setting up like a MMA verse or UFC verse or something like that. But he's been fighting. I don't know if he's going to go pro or something or make his own game.
They shouldn't do MMA. They should do like a slap first, with the slaps, so you can like slap. Mark
Zuckerberg. I'm so down for a slap burst. All I'm saying is that like I don't want to talk about Meta in any disparaging way because Zuckerberg's getting jacked. I am telling you, he's gonna start defending Meta himself personally with his fists. And I listen. I don't want that smoke. I'm good. I saw that video
out there in California, right? I come to beat down your door, right?
Nah, man, I'm good. I don't want to get figure 4 leg locked by Mark Zuckerberg.
You see what happens with Adam's balance here and her chainsaws to cut us down a step.
All right, just add chainsaws to the mix here. Like it's not like
it'll make it better. It'll make it better. So right, let's talk about this like floating gorilla in the room, which is Echo. Game, which released back in 2017, and really, it's been one of the steadfast, solid esports games. I'll just repeat that because I know we had a little bit of a disconnection there. So
sorry about that.
I think it was anyway. Ready at Dawn made an awesome spin-off game which released back in 2017. And it's one of these like steadfast esport games. I remember being there, show floor, OC4, 5 and stuff, and they were really pushing esports with both Oculus and Facebook at the time, and it was awesome to see the future of what this might be like. I knew it was probably 10 years too early, but Echo is one of those games, so it's really neat. And unfortunately, right, we got report that Echo VR is going to be shut down from August 1st, 2023. So August 1st this year. Service and services will shut down, preventing any further play. And the lead decision of this is pointed to CTO Andrew Bosworth, or Boz, who remarked that these resources could be put to other use cases.
Oreoverse.
Will be useful. Now, I hope not. Tens of millions of people who are on VR, right? So he's like, we're gonna. And this is a difficult message. You're like, I'm going to take away the thing you love, give you something else. What's the something else, Boz? I can't tell you, right? So that's not an easy message, even if he says we're going to give you Echo 2, right? Like, we don't know. Boz went on to say in an AMA that came later, which I thought he was very eloquent in the way he defended. And there's this whole chain of events that have happened subsequently, and I know a lot of different big VR people have covered it. But Carmack had chimed in and had mentioned to Boz his position, and wouldn't have made the decision to shut down Echo VR. So I just wanted to call out Boz's kind of rebuttal to that. So we had basically an announcement that the game was going to end. Big deal for a lot of VR people. People who I know from early days when Rift was just kind of taking off in particular. Then we had responses from that of Carmack, a bunch of creators, people like Sonia Haskins, making comments about this. And I think they're the right voices to be talking about it, to say, you shouldn't shut it down. Why are we shutting it down? And then Boz comes out with an AMA and answered a bunch of tough questions that were put to him. And he answered this, right? I just cut out a little bit. He said, what happened here? Well, we have a game. We loved it. And it was a huge part of the evolution of virtual reality multiplayer. A community-based game, a game that had esports potential. And we kept it going for a long time. The Ready at Dawn team was really proud of it, understandably. And then ultimately, it just dwindled, right? And the number of players that they had, when they were saying that there was somewhere in the range of 10,000 people playing it, if that's an active count, I'm kind of surprised. I'm surprised it's still around at that level. But I wanted to talk a little bit about you guys' reactions in terms of what are the options when a game that is a service, has servers humming in the background, how long can that last? I mean, at some point, you got to turn the servers off, right? They have been going several years, so I see Boz's point there. It is a sore spot for people who are currently active on it. And if there were only 100 people on it, you'd say, okay, I'll pull the server cost. If I'm paying X amount of money for that, I'll pull it. But what if it's 500 people? What if it's 2,000? Like, at what point do you pull the trigger? Who gets to choose?
You can scale down the servers, right? You can just have it run on a single server. It can't be that much.
And to the point that Carmack made, he's like, why don't you as a company just put it on the shoulders of a single engineer? Like, give one person to keep it running, keep the lights on. I don't know. They've decided not to do that. But I think it's tied into what Meta's doing this year. They're trying to strip out all the costs. As I said, it goes back to they're in survival mode, and anything that's not generating return on the income has to go. Otherwise, the ship sinks, is what I'm sensing as a shareholder. But I'm curious. I mean, this is a general problem we've had in flat games as well, where I remember when Grid went offline, I was super happy with Grid and online multiplayer. And then, I don't know, 8 years later, they're like, oh, can't play that anymore. How do you guys respond to this? I mean, Rowdy, you were there. You saw these, esports players in the flesh as well. Like, I mean, those guys must be devastated. I wouldn't be surprised if they're sobbing. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't put it past them. I'd be sobbing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with Carmack's statement. Like, there's no reason for taking this offline. I think not. Like, putting like even a single server and a single person maintaining that server, or maybe not even a single person, but just having a server up and then like seeing if it breaks, then you put someone on there or whatever. Like, absolutely minimal support for this, and then sometimes it will work, sometimes it will not. So be it. But like, yeah,
it's Twitter then, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that already happened.
That's the thing.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Been...
I'm suspicious. Echo VR kind of has remained stagnant, to be quite honest. I have a lot of respect for what it did, for what it was. It's a boring game compared to newer esports games, newer titles. It introduced a lot of cool mechanics. It's going to be. I do agree that they should have added offline mode, an additional server.
Like, if you look at, for example, Quake. Let's stick with the Carmack example. There were way more newer and more awesome games that were being released. But what you're doing is you're stripping down a community. That community could move on to... They're losing customers here. No matter what they do, they're going to lose customers. These are people that are very invested in this particular game. They can jump to a different game. They can jump to a cooler game or a nicer or newer game.
Go to option B. Go to Carmack's option B, which was sell the rights or let the team go, right? Let them spin off into their own thing if they want to back it, right? But maybe, and again, I am certainly not on a witch hunt against Boz or whatever. He's now the guy and all the fingers point to him, so he's going to take a lot of blame no matter which way this goes. But why not, maybe Ready at Dawn didn't want its engineers, maybe they didn't want to go with the game. That's very possible. It's like, I want to build the new exciting thing.
They said it in the post.
Here.
Ready at Dawn. The post says that Ready at Dawn is working on something. They're specifically telling Meta we don't want to put in these resources to support this. And now you're asking the platform to support something that they already have resources that are taking off, like Gorilla Tag, Pop One. Why would you tell them, hey, put money on something that, to be honest, is dwindling down? There's no interest. If there was interest, we would be seeing independent esports or tournaments happening. Like, what's the last Eco? I love Sonya. Sonya's a homie, and I had this conversation with her, and it was exactly that. I was like, when's the last big Echo tournament in the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years?
Why does it have to be that? Going back to Rowdy's analogy, like I played Quake every year of my life, I think.
Quake didn't have an official server. Quake was offline land-based game. It allowed it to continue on.
But that's what I'm saying. Why wouldn't they code it in a way that, and this goes exactly back to Face Your Fears and Dispatch. Yeah. If you can code it in a way and arrange between the company the platform who's hosting and the development team, you don't just cut it off and say, I'm not going to develop it anymore. You roll it off. What you do is you develop it in a way that you say, you want to play it? Fine. Brad, you're going to have to host it, and Jose's going to have to host it, right? And then the two people are going to do peer-to-peer networking or whatever and get your matches. Yeah. Let the community support it and all that. But why does it have to run? Maybe it's so engineered around server-based hosting that they couldn't. Maybe.
I think I sometimes, I don't know, I kind of always look at it from a very, very most basic answer is usually the most obvious one. And for me, what I'm thinking is Ready at Dawn said, hey, we're making something better. And I don't like the idea of a community that's very feverishly in love with something we created to compete with us. So let's kill it. Let's put the resources of something that's going to be able to appease that audience with something better.
But the thing is, if the community is not going to jump on that next title then from Ready at Dawn, because they're going to be like, well, no, why would you invest time and effort? And if you're asking me, I spent
Call of Duty shuts down their servers every day, and that game keeps making money. Fortnite shuts down their previous seasons.
Ready at Dawn is not, the same company there. Like, they don't have that same user base. They
don't have the. That's why they're going to pull the data. They're not going to cannibalize their user base.
This is a great triangle, guys.
If they damage the community, the small community they have, then I think that they're going to screw themselves over in the long term. Because I am not going to invest in a game, my time, my effort, if I know that 3 years down the line, it might not be playable anymore.
That's true. Absolutely.
Why would I do that?
But it's so funny because I really do see us as in a triangle right now because, Rowdy, I don't agree with the internet has a long form memory because gamers, when there's something out there, the second 10 people are playing it, if it looks good to you,
they move away.
People
of course.
I just don't. I don't.
But
see
it's about a relationship.
I agree with that, and that's why I have such a problem. And it has nothing to do with Echo, and it has nothing to do with anything but how do you engineer a product for the end of its life cycle. They are ignoring that. They ignored it with Gear VR. They ignored it with Go. Yeah. Go. The only thing that saved Go was Carmack saying, let's open source this so the baby doesn't die.
Yes.
There's no one at the moment advocating for end of life. It seems like Facebook, all they have known is how to grow, how to get bigger, how to go. And when it comes to end of life, they just drop off a cliff. They're like, oh, oops.
They know how to Oculus Go, but they don't know how to
internet software. Yeah, I don't know if you. I don't know. I've been having a lot of conversations on Twitter and spirited conversations about the possibilities of this being done. But they have Horizons, right? They have a metaverse app. We have seen Yakuza has proven what VR chat can do. What happens if Horizon creates or gets to a point where they have a platform like VR chat? and all of a sudden they open up a world that is pretty much just Echo Arena.
Like Oreoverse.
I've been a server host for most of the time I've had a computer and an internet signal. Why don't we have something like Folding at Home, the SETI Folding at Home program, which would use a net of computers, 10% processing power. And why can't we, like the buzz I get as a server host is, hey, there's 5 people racing on Assetto Corsa, some track, you know, they're racing 2 buddies racing through Italy. They're just sitting on my box doing it. Why am I paying for the electricity, the energy? Because I know someone else out there is having a fucking good time, and I don't mind paying that bill. There's so many nerds out there with computers that exceed their needs with idle time. Just do that, crowdsource it, and let's have an interface like an API where people can set their games up and allow them to run. Let the people run for the people. Come on, we need that.
I'm ready. I'm convinced. FReality internet service. Let's get to it. Let's build it. FReality internet coming soon.
Cheaper than Netflix.
Keep your games alive.
Not cheaper than Netflix now, man. Capitalism. We're charging.
Yeah, we got.
If you don't pay it, I'm killing all the service. You don't like. I'm gonna be worse than Boz.
That's great. That's great. Our future is glim. Look. They're not the only one. Echo is not the only one. I wanted to say this because it made like so much little news. Onward, right?
I want to say this real quick to add at the real that tidbit. I gotta show like respect to Boz. Like one thing that I gotta say is that Carmack. One thing that I love about Carmack is that I love his speeches when he talks it, but he never. Carmack had very specific things he liked to address. He never kind of like went forward to controversy. Where Boz is straight up putting his face out there, answering difficult questions immediately after they come in, which is whether you like them or not, it's dope to see. I don't like I don't like their decision. I just like that you know that they're they're not avoiding the question. They're not they're upfront about it. It's like, hey, I killed it.
I absolutely agree with you there. And we have a face, you have a throat to choke, so to speak, right? And that's that takes balls. It takes some cojones.
And they can fight back. They're training, and they can fight back too. I'm just saying.
And for Boz, right? Like the only thing that I don't like is I feel it's a little either he's just very eloquent over the years, built it up, or he's going through his like PR and legal team, which I think is what it is. Because an AMA, like the engine that I imagine is message comes in, Boz drafts response, goes through legal team or whomever else, then gets posted. You know what I mean? Like that's how it feels. And I also feel like the words that came back were a little bit of flowery poetry. And a little bit of, oh, it's our game, and I know, and I love this, and I don't buy it. I don't buy his whole message. It feels a little bit like
he has the legal team right there too. He has his legal team much more closer than probably Carmack did.
But that's safe.
Reviewing his questions.
It is safe. It does allow us to ask tough questions. It allows him to answer tough questions. So because I don't have a better system of operating, I agree with you, Jose. I think we should at least applaud a little bit Boz and Meta for doing that, because I'll tell you what. Few years ago, 6-7 years ago, there was nobody, no face person. After Palmer Luckey went away, that was it. We were just blank. Yep. You remember those years, Rowdy? I mean, there was no conversation. So conversation is better than none. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, Onward support is also going away. July 31st for Quest 1. Just Quest 1, okay? So don't get too nervous. But again, I do feel like that fuse of the allowable, how quickly will consumers get their pitchforks out? That fuse has gotten so much shorter more recently. And I don't think it's necessarily we have naturally just gotten shorter attention spans. I don't think that's not it. I think companies have been tightening their belts, and honestly, they just don't want to pay as much. So, those timelines get shorter. They get to call the shots. There's no vote. It's just them. So, well, I hope the studios that Meta's bought up, this is my kind of final point on this notion. I hope that the studios that Meta's bought up aren't the violinists that are going down with the Titanic. But that could be a future. It could be a year from now. Meta's gone and all of your libraries are gone and your headsets don't work. And that's why I hope they steer clear of that. They've got a huge amount of capital. I think they're going to be fine. But what I'm seeing from them on the corporate side says that they are bailing water right now. And so I think it's just worth recognizing that and understanding their decisions to that extent. Okay. So now I've beaten up Meta a lot. Let's give them some applause. A couple of small things that I wanted to talk about. Oculus Touch. So Oculus Meta Quest touch panels are coming to the interface in version 55 of the OS. This is kind of interesting. So for ages, we've been able to point with a laser, and soon, because you have your hands, and hand tracking works brilliantly in a Quest, you'll be able to drag with your finger and pick a game with your finger since version 55. It's currently V49 that's out there in the wild. So that's one cool thing that's coming. And the other thing that's snuck in here, I don't know if you guys knew this, but I didn't know this. In your MetaQuest home environment, right, where you see the mirror and you can pick out your swanky clothing and you can buy your digital pants, even though you still don't have any legs. What's that about? You can invite someone to your room. I was able to get my dad to join me in my space. So I could see his avatar, he could see me, before we then decided to go off and play Golf Plus. So obviously the way Meta's thinking is, these guys play Golf Plus. Sell him a Golf Plus jersey so he looks like he's right and ready for his golf game. And I got to say, there's a little twinge that says, hey, do that. But then I remember Dispatch, and I remember Face Your Fears, and they're like, please, they're like the fallen heroes. They're like, remember us. And I'm like, I'm not buying a fucking jersey. As much as I want to support Golf Plus, no way, because that thing's going to live a year or two, and then it'll just be inoperable. I've seen what they do with their home environments. But I have to say, being able to invite people over to your house, virtually, your virtual environment, even though it's not customizable or anything, you select from prefixed options, and then that's it. There's no interactivity in that environment. Having another person there, yay! Great. We've got that again. It feels like it's been a long time. So, step in the right direction.
For sure.
On that page, Rowdy, there's something on the V50 update, and I wanted to show the picture of the freebies that Meta was showing, and just call a couple of them out. So if you buy a Quest 2, right, between February 5th and June 17th, you're getting 2 games. You're getting Golf Plus and Space Pirate Trainer. Space Pirate Trainer comes with Space Pirate Arena, which is really cool. Golf Plus is a fantastic social game. It's really, really good. I've enjoyed it loads. I think their DLC is way overpriced, like $15 for a track and stuff is ridiculous. But and now I'm not buying any more. I've said no more because of the whole meta thing. But the freebies, the free content that you can see, there's a big grid of these titles that show. Scroll down on the page. On the morning you wake to the end of the world, for anyone who wasn't already shaken by last year's Russia invasion of Ukraine, go experience that. On the morning you wake to the end of the world is crazy. It's about this thing that happened in Hawaii about a false alarm for a nuclear strike. It will make you feel really unsettled. Also, The Under Presents is a great title. Mission ISS and Henry. These are all classics, right? Things that you should definitely check out, and I recommend. So if you are in for freebies, if you're biding your time before PSVR2, you're just waiting for more Quest content, those are things that you want to do. But anyway, that's enough of things getting wound down, seas of fans left sobbing, and code bases crawling into their hastily dug graves. Let's move it over to our spiritual leader, Jose. He's going to turn that frown upside down.
Oh, boy.
He's like a firefighter, chopping through the scorched wood to bring us our prized pooch from the flames. And as long as you don't call out Vet VR, I'm fine, dude. But I am. I'm curious. What have you got for our eager players this time around?
All right, so I'm going to call this one, man, I should have definitely had something more fitting the theme, but I decided to have a little pew-pew roundup this week. A lot of shooters, so I decided to highlight 3 shooters that stood out to me. Upcoming first one is Gun Jam, hitting it strong. It is a beat rhythm shooter. It is a lot like Pistol Whip. It's not like it's the better you shoot to the beat, the better you kill. I haven't played it yet. Okay. Releases on February 16.
This is what
Quest 2, Quest 2 and PSVR.
Okay.
So it's
yeah. So cool.
I believe so.
Like
yeah.
Unreal
so it's
Tournament.
It looks a lot like a real tournament. Yeah, it's so sick. It's $25. It's about 20 pounds.
Wow. What's this game called again?
It is called Gun Jam.
God, that like we were just talking Quake, and now with the UT feel like this one, I'm in already. I want that.
Trust me, this is all going to very inspired from 2000s and the 90s.
Is it in VR? Because like that gameplay that I saw, like it looked like it was just regular.
So it is VR.
The VR mode.
I believe so. Let me make sure of this. It's weird, right? Because now I'm looking at the gameplay video. It is on the Steam VR. I do see the link here, but it does look like a 2D gameplay. Maybe I just will share a different link.
That's fine.
Yeah, I haven't received your links, but I'm just looking at Google.
Yeah. Up next is Drop Dead, the Cabin VR.
Ooh.
That one, it looks interesting, and the reason that I'm really glad that I added this one to the list is because we're talking about bringing in people to the Horizon world and being able to see your character and stats. It looks like it's using the same character avatar system. Yep. I'm not sure if you'll be able to import it, but it's kind of dope that we're starting to see now, the avatars going into actual shooters and just seeing different mechanics. But this one is a haunted shooter, it looks like.
Yeah.
Let's see. It attacks players to survive in a night haunted with the undead. You're stuck in more than it seems. It doesn't even say what it is. I hate game promos that don't really tell you what you're doing.
It's a co-op wave procedural.
Pretty much as a wave shooter, yeah.
But you can do it. As you said, the thing that caught us, and I remember Rowdy calling this out, the kind of disparity between the meta avatar and this like zombie apocalypse environment was like, is this going to feel right? I mean, maybe it'll feel okay. I don't know. I'm curious to see if it works out. And the co-op side of it is kind of cool. Drop Dead, the original game, I remember playing that on, was that Quest 1? Maybe
that's a Quest 1 game.
I think the original Drop Dead was on Go, if I'm not mistaken, and then Quest 1 had it. And there was a co-op version that then came out, which was good fun. So this looks like just they're just maturing as a team. They're giving us something new. Awesome. So look forward to doing that.
I've said this before, but that contrast between those two, they could so easily fix that if they would do like a layer over between your avatar and your have like you're still you. Hey, you're still your avatar, but there's like a skin over it that makes it a little bit grayer or darker,
muddy,
or like some kind of muddy. Yeah, like something that
so
doesn't look
like
so starkly different.
Yeah. Smart.
Yep, so that's February 16th, $22 US, about 18 pounds. And the last one I have, which I love because it reminds me a lot of GoldenEye for the GameCube, is District Steel. It's a PSVR game, also releasing on February 16th. It's $20 US, about 16 pounds. And it pretty much looks like 007 for the GameCube. A lot of like 90s-esque first-person shooter vibes. The weird
gameplay, not graphics, right?
Yeah, well, honestly, the graphics too, which is really bizarre, right? The tonal, just empty corridor space.
Boxes.
Yes, just very box graphics, which is very bizarre because I never realized how older 90s and older shooters have a better representation of warehouses than modern games. Modern games, they kind of like amp up just to have so much visual stuff. Like no warehouse has that many piping, just smoking air. And it's just, so it's really cool. It's a straightforward shooter. Releases on the 16th, 20 US, 16 pounds. And yeah, just a pew roundup for you guys before PSVR2. So that I didn't want to like bombard with all the releases everybody's looking for. So
that is nice. Yeah. I'm gonna add a little sweetener there. Those are all three look good to me. So I'm a big FPS guy though. So maybe maybe it's me. I saw an update there midweek, just as a kind of a mention to tag on. Breachers 1.4. So Breachers is the game that you sideload to your Quest. They brought flashbangs to the game, and I think that will make it really add an extra level of fun to the already breach and shoot classic for Quest. That was excellent, dude. What was can you just give me the names again? Just
absolutely. So first one up was Gun Jam, releasing February 16th. After that was Drop Dead, the Cabin VR, February 16th, and also and the District Steel. And District Steel. That's the one. That's the fun one,
dude. Well, thank you.
All fun, but.
Yeah, those look great, especially that first one. I hope that it really is VR because I really like
I'll definitely make sure of that. I'm like figuring out here because I'm looking at the video too. I was like, wait a minute, was this a We'll figure it out. I'll post a link.
I gotta tell you one thing that I saw during the week, which isn't VR, but I can want it, is called Pacific Drive. It's like a procedural. You're driving like a Mad Max style car, and you put you're putting sides of the door on. You're fueling your ride. You're changing the tires and wheels of the vehicle, and you're driving. You're trying to survive, and it's got a bit of a Escape from Chernobyl vibe for anyone who knows Arma, where like you're here, you need to get there and get out and survive the journey, and it has all kinds of like. Anyway, it's not a VR game. I don't want to fluff people up on this, but it looked really sick. Awesome. So I just saw it and I was like, oh man, you're like grinding. It just has that Mad Max feel, and like we need a game like that in VR. And we were begging and exchanging with the devs on Reddit, like, please do this. And they're like, we'd love to do it, but we're not doing it right now. Don't get your hopes up. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. 3 years from now, come on, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, bring it to PSVR2. So yeah, that is that. Well, chat, we have stayed our long welcome, over welcome here. If you got anything to get off your chests, do it now, please. I'm gonna run the show times here. So, FReality podcast is live every other Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. We broadcast from 10 a.m. in Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. in the UK. We do have an audio version, just testing some special things there today, see if we can make that even sweeter. SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes is where you'll find us over there. Let us know in the comments to the video if you're watching this back, what'd you think? Share with your friends, and if you're enjoying it, well, come back and listen anytime. So chat have said all kinds of nice things today. I'm afraid I haven't been able to catch many of them. I saw Damer's there, an old buddy of mine, saying evening from Tower of London. He's working away for doing tech for guests going into headsets there. So thank you from London. Hello to London. And yeah, if you got anything else to get off your chest, please do. Gentlemen, before we wrap up and, God, get some lunch or something, you guys got anything else you want to call out before the next show that we've got?
I don't think anything in particular. I mean, I am curious, because I know your wife is a big Harry Potter fan, right?
That's Mike's wife. Mike's wife.
Oh, right. It was Mike's wife. Yeah.
We did swap wives at one point, but that didn't go so well.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that.
Then I had to move countries. It was all a little bit,
Right, because I'm kind of looking for someone who has a little bit more experience in this kind of Harry Potter stuff than I do.
So Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. So they managed. So they pretty much bullified and added magic to bully. It's pretty much bully the game. It's not Grand Theft Auto-esque where you can just run around and cause harm, but they definitely created a world set pretty much around the Harry Potter world. So a lot of interaction. You can murder people. You can. I actually did see somebody. You can interact and you can be a bully essentially in the game with magic. So there was somebody who actually was doing spells on random cats and flying them across the hallways.
Are you just messing about, or are there like quests?
Yeah.
Like what style of game is it? Okay.
It's a lot like the Witcher
GTA
style. Yeah, no, it's more like Witcher, where you kind of like are. It's more like the journey-ish, walking around and interacting. It's not really about the combat. The combat is fun. It's all button mashing and building spells. Nice. But yeah, it's set around the world of Harry Potter, so it's really cool. I haven't really gotten very deep into it. I'm like 3 hours in. I ordered a new laptop. My laptop kind of died on me, so I'm kind of waiting for my replacement before my charger just fell too. So I go ahead breaking my laptop even more. But but yeah, no. So once my computer gets here, I definitely plan on playing it more. But yeah, they just built a world around Harry Potter. And
nice. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds good. I was just wondering.
It's a unique story, which is cool, right? So if you're a fan of it, you have read the books. You don't have to really read the books. It's set on the world of it. So if you're a fan of the world or want to get into it and you have read the books, then you can see art pieces or set pieces from the books and be like, oh, like this bathroom has the Chamber of Secrets like in the movies, but in the game, it doesn't do anything at the moment. So things like that.
I might read the books then first.
They're fun. They're fun.
I haven't read the books. I made it halfway through one of the films with an an ex-girlfriend, and that's about it. I just have no Harry Potter knowledge whatsoever.
Oh, man.
It's one of those things.
You guys are trying to get me into controversial opinions here, but I think the movies are better than the books. I love the books.
Ooh, Really?
But no, Daniel Radcliffe is dope in that, and every single person in that. It's cool seeing them like grow up throughout the movies. I think there's something to that. Seeing the actors grow through the movies, you get more connected to it. Rather in the books, you're described all those changes. It's much more personal in the movies, honestly.
Yeah, well, I remember what's Hermione? Her name? Man, she's all over
Emma
the
Watson. Mm-hmm. She dominated.
Some dudes really got into the whole Hermione thing. I don't know. It's one of those things. But anyway, we'll leave Hermione to the side for now and Hogwarts our way out of here, I suppose. The race now begins because will the PSVR2 show up and be with me by our next podcast on February 25th or not? If we suddenly cough, call in sick and you see me streaming on the PSVR2, then maybe go easy on old Zim. All right. Have a good weekend, lads. That was fun.
Take care.
All right.
See
Bye,
you.
guys.
Yeah.